It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. You do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host. We brought him inside rather than let him broadcast from left field in the rain. John Riley is with us, and we welcome you to Hacksaw's Headlines, our Monday podcast. Brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects, they've got materials. If you want ideas, they can be your best friend and become your consultant. Go to dixieline.com and just see all the things that they have to offer. John, do you like baseball? Do you like Game 7s in the NBA and the NHL? Holy hell, what a weekend we had.
Yeah, the Game 7s were spectacular. Padres on the road at Yankee Stadium. Hopefully the sky clears so they can play tonight, but it was a great weekend.
We got a lot to cover, going to go a lot of different directions, couple of business notes after we put topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done. We open it up to you, the fans. It's called Fans Forum. We invite you to join us in the chat box by asking questions, making statements. Feel free. Stand up, sound off, pile on, take a shot. Just remember, in tennis, there is a return serve. If you come to net, you might get hit. But Fans Forum, chat box, open for business on anything and everything. And we put unique and new topics on the table on Mondays. So if there's something we hit a nerve, you hit the hot button and join us in the Fans Forum chat box. This thing has taken off, hasn't it?
React to me. Howie Penasquitos. So if you got a comment or question in the world of sports for this man, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
Don't blame me.
Yeah, this is your chance to jump on board. I already see Callan and Bill. Bill was in early before we even went live. So if you have a comment or question, drop it in the live chat on X, YouTube, Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
A couple of other items. I write sports every day of the week. Hell, I'm better than your newspaper. I want you to check my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's all written. It's there every day. Go to the website. On the homepage, there's an orange box. Fill it out. Join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. We then email you the best 15 minutes in sports every morning. It's in your email box. Also want you to join me on social media. I know you're on social media. I see what you write. I want you to follow me. Just go to @Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. Also want you to share. Tell everybody what we're doing Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe on the YouTube channel and the other platforms, you will get the alerts every time we put additional videos up on the YouTube channel, and we do that quite often during the course of the week. You can really help us grow a lot. Thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button and give us a 5-star rating. That helps grow this thing, and it's already at 2.3 million. We want more. I'm sorry, we're greedy. We bleep and want more. So give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating along the way. All right, John, where do you want to start? Because, man, we might be here till Wednesday doing this one this week.
Yeah, there's a lot on the table here. But, I mean, the Padres are riding a 5-game winning streak. It's good times right now.
Friars are 22-11. Thank God they're playing the Pirates amongst other people. Now they're getting most of their hurt people back healthy. That's a real positive. Now they can play real people. Padres, Yankee Stadium. What an emotional rush for these guys to go into the house that Ruth built. And the Padres lined up the pitching staff. They got Pivetta, they got King, they got Cease. They're throwing her 3 best against the New York Yankees. And I'll tell you what, we came through the incident in which Tatis got beamed on the elbow. Man, I thought he fractured his forearm with that elbow. Luckily, he broke a blood vessel. Next day, they padded it up. He's out there swinging a bat. Manny Machado's hot. Arise is spraying balls all over the place since he came off the disabled list. Now, this is not vintage Yankee baseball. I mean, this is Yankee baseball without Garrett Cole, without Marcus Hill, without Marcus Stroman, without Clark Schmidt. They're down 5 starters in all and down a couple of relievers. They're also without Jazz Chisholm, Giancarlo Stanton, and DJ Matthew. This is not a great Yankee team, and yet the Yankees are having themselves a pretty decent season because of Aaron Judge. I can't wait to see the Padres' big three against Aaron Judge, who's hitting .432 with 11 bombs.
That's all?
That's all. And already in New York, the tabloid beat writers, they're writing, can this guy hit 400 this year? Can this guy go where nobody's gone since Ted Williams in 1941 when he hit 406? Now, we're a month into this. You know, we did see Judge tail off last year in postseason really, really badly, but he's hitting .432. I think he's done a great job this season. So I'm just fascinated with that. Dodgers, well, they had won 7 in a row. They got beat in Atlanta because Dustin May gave up a couple of home run balls on Sunday night. I don't know if you heard about this. They sat through a 3-hour and 5-minute rain delay, and they didn't start the game till well after 10 p.m. Atlanta time. And then they played 3 hours and 6 minutes of baseball in damp conditions. Dustin May kind of got banged around again. It's a third straight start that he hasn't dominated. He hasn't been killed, but hasn't dominated. Dodgers starting to hit home runs, though. Here comes Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez hitting home runs. But their pitching staff is really thin. I mean, they're sitting there. They got a 3-man starting rotation. They're down 3 starters, and they're down 3 relief pitchers that are still on the disabled list. Now, Tommy Edman's gone on the deal, and he carried them offensively. He's got an ongoing ankle problem. They've just called up the Korean second baseman, Hae-Sung Kim, who hit .252 at AAA Oklahoma City. The Dodgers in Miami. They're playing bad teams right now, too. So the Dodgers are sitting there 23-11, half game above the Padres. The schedule says the Angels have to play games. The schedule says the Angels are likely going to lose games. Tell you, when you have no hitting and you have no pitching, you had no hope. They got drilled by the Detroit Tigers again over the weekend, got killed. Tigers hit 3 bombs. Reese Olson, a rookie, showed up through 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. Team batting average is .210 in Anaheim. Team ERA is 4.72 in Anaheim. Team in Anaheim has lost 10 of its last 12. Where's the hope? Is there any hope at all for Halo baseball? Okay, let's talk Padre Big Three versus Judge. You want to talk Dodger ball? You want to talk Halo ball? Podium is yours.
When you mentioned that the Dodgers had a 3-hour rain delay with the Braves, I just got flashbacks of watching Andy Griffith on WTBS.
Forever.
Yeah. Well, we're experiencing a rain delay here at Fulton County Stadium, you know. So, you know, I didn't realize the Dodgers had won so many in a row there. So, yeah. I mean, the Dodgers, they're going to be fine. They're back in the number 1 in the power rankings, you know, and so, yeah, whatever. Padres, you know, did you read Kevin Acey's, not really a column, he has like sort of a notebook that he does. It was a really interesting discussion he had with Michael King, saying how he still keeps in touch with Aaron Judge and their friends, and that he's now looking at this lineup, and there's only a few guys left that were on the team when he was there.
Yeah, well, I mean, Soto is gone. They got so many guys on the disabled list, and, you know, free agency, they let some guys go along the way. It's a very different batting order. You look at him and you say, outside of Aaron Judge, who scares you? But, boy, Judge does scare you. I mean, for him to have this lineup around him that's kind of iffy, for him to be hitting .432 with 11 gongs already, wow.
Well, how about Trent Grisham? I mean, he's like suddenly resurrected himself. His OPS is over 1,000.
Yeah, but he's not playing very much because Cody Bellinger's in front of him, and Bellinger's hitting $198.
Jimmy, that Bellinger is that one guy that he'll have that one good year and he fools you, and then he gets the big contract, then he goes back to being in the dumps.
He did it with the Dodgers, did it with the Cubs.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go again. So I know this game is questionable if it's going to actually, you know, they're going to play. I saw the starting lineup, and they don't even have Jackson Merrill in the starting lineup. So they're probably keeping him out of the mud, you know, like the Kentucky Derby. They don't want him to pull that hammy again. So I don't know. It's a great time to be a Padre fan, but I still have that grudge mode about the 98 World Series and Mark Langston threw that strike, remember? And the umpire called it a ball. And then I can't remember who was batting in that. Was that Bernie Williams or someone? And then they ended up going yard, and then the tide turned, and the Padres had no shot.
Was that Langston or Sterling Hitchcock?
No, it was definitely Langston pitching.
Well, Hitchcock had another incident somewhere in one of those World Series.
Yeah, so that we got payback still, 20 or 30 years later.
I'm fascinated to see the big three against Judge.
Oh, yeah, I think it'll be terrific, and all three of those guys are generally pitching pretty well. Hey, what'd you think of Kolek in that start?
It was interesting. Kolek's comment in the clubhouse after the game was, my God, this is hard. Yeah, for him. I mean, he was talking about the stress level of facing a batting order first time through, second time through. He got to the fourth and fifth inning. I think he was mentally drained because you got to be on your beam. It's not like coming in out of the pen and throwing heat to two batters and hope you get him out in the eighth inning. He said, wow, this is really freaking hard.
Yeah, and I think he went through the lineup twice.
Yeah.
He says, imagine going through it a third, but Elias Diaz was praising him for the way he was working in his pitches. And so I think it's terrific. I think there's a promise and a future for him as a starter.
Judge
is awesome. Judge is like,
here come the Judge.
Yeah, I know. And he's just a good guy too. You know what I mean? And when was he a first round draft pick out of Fresno State?
I think he was. He was not a refined college star. He wasn't. I'm trying to think who are the great college stars. Robin Ventura, Mark McGuire.
Yeah.
He was nowhere near that when he came out of Fresno State.
And there was I don't recall a lot of hype around him, like the Bryce Harper situation.
Just kind of climbed through the
He just all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, the Yankees landed another winner. And like the Angels, who are they going to play next? They just finished with the Tigers. And who's next on the schedule? You
had to ask me. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I mean, there's nothing to talk about with them.
This feels so hopeless. With Trout being hurt again and the starting pitching staggering, and Kenley Jansen gave up 3 home runs out of the bullpen in 1 inning to Detroit.
Oh my God.
And Ben Joyce is on the disabled list, the other closer with shoulder issues. They just don't have any players.
Well, we were saying how they had a lot of players suddenly. They had working pieces. I mean, how's Jorge Soler doing?
If 224 is okay, then I guess he's okay. He's hit some home runs, but he's not hitting. Tim Anderson is not hitting. Looks like he may have just woken up and lost his ability to swing the stick. The catcher, Logan O'Hoppe, had the great start. Neto, the shortstop, finally came back, hit with a little bit of power. Chanel has the best batting average of all. Joe Adell is Joe Adell, hits some home runs and hits 189 or whatever it is right now. To me, I look at the lineup, I say, how the hell are you going to compete for 162 games with these guys? And now you don't have Trout.
How long's he out?
Don't know yet.
But it was a hamstring that he pulled?
No, knee.
The knee. That's worse, right?
Yeah, well, he slammed it on the bag going across the bag. Bone bruise.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
he was running hard. I remember I saw that.
Pounding it.
So he just kind of hit that and then just kind of just the jam the knee when he hit it, right?
Exactly. Okay. So those are all things. Padres, Dodgers, Angels, fans forum, chat box is open. You are requested to have an opinion and get on board. Give us are you excited to see the big three of the Padres against Aaron Judge? How cool is that? Next topic on the table.
Yeah, you got some notes here with the Red Sox, the Angels again, and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, let's just talk about injuries here. You talk about storming down the first base line, hitting the bag and getting hurt. We've had 3 significant injury issues in less than a week at first base. Obviously, Arise was the first one. The Padres got lucky on that collision. And then Trout, Tristan Casas, the outstanding first baseman of the Red Sox, thundering down the first base line. He's a big guy, and he was trying to hustle out an infield hit. He planted the bag, and his left knee exploded.
Oh, no.
Ruptured patella tendon, gone for at least a year. And this guy's got great promise. He's got great power. He's a pretty good hitter. Big setback. Trout, bone bruise, almost the exact same play 2 days before the Red Sox first baseman got hurt. Thundering down the first base line. Last step, hit the bag hard. Boom. He's got a bone bruise in the knee that's had 2 meniscus surgeries already. Bone bruises can take a period of time to recover. And in Arizona, they lose another starting pitcher. Right at the start of the season, they lost left-hander Jordan Montgomery, Tommy John surgery, gone for the year. Corbin Burns has now been shut down. He's got inflammation in his right shoulder. He, of course, was the ace of the Orioles staff, and prior to that, had so many good seasons with Milwaukee. All of a sudden, he's hurt. Injury factor in baseball starting to grow and grow. I keep track of this. The Mets just lost one of their top young pitchers, Danny Young, elbow surgery. 15 Tommy John procedures since the first week of spring training in February. And here we are just in the start of May.
You know what's interesting is in your best 15 that you do every morning, you have, roster moves and you have injuries. And there's a list, and it keeps getting longer. It's really amazing. And that Tristan Casas, I remember there was talk of him
coming here.
Yeah, coming to the Padres, first baseman, and it was interesting. The Trout thing is just a shame. That guy is so darn talented, and it's a shame that they're going to miss him again. And then Corbin Burns, I remember when he went to the Diamondbacks, that was sort of a stealth free agent signing.
Well, they offered him multi-years, big money, like $25 million per. Baltimore wanted to keep him, but was not willing to go 5 or 6 years for a pitcher.
So shoulder soreness or
shoulder inflammation.
So that's like a Yu Darvish thing, right? So maybe
Darvish has the elbow.
It's elbow,
but Burns does not have a history, so this might be a thing a little bit too early in the season. They did an MRI. He has not had an injection, so I guess that's good news for Arizona. But Arizona, some of us at this table projected Arizona to do pretty well in the National League West.
Yeah.
Now they're down 2 starting pitchers.
Yeah, maybe they're not quite as good as we thought, So, I mean, when you get these injuries.
So you think the guy that picked them to finish second's a dumbass?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm waiting for you to say plasma platelet ejection. It's just what you always do.
Okay, that's all things baseball. Feel free, jump on board. Fans Forum chat box. That's why we're doing this podcast. So we put hot topics on the table, and then we let you to respond to some of the late-breaking stories today. We move on. We're going to talk football. No, we're going to talk book reviews. Here we go, John. We just can't let this go.
No, it's just been so great. And the comments on this and the videos that you've produced are wonderful. So let's hear the latest.
All right, here's the latest involving Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson, his woman, and the media. I was told the University of North Carolina has mandated that Belichick hire an experienced public relations person to work with him within the athletic department structure, in addition to football stuff, non-football media stuff. In essence, the babe has been benched by the University of North Carolina. Now, he's not responded yet, but they did an intervention demoting Jordan Hudson. They found out that she not only sent a hostile email to the president of CBS News over the interview on CBS Sunday Morning that we all talked about last week, she also sent a hostile note to the editor and publisher of the Boston Globe about their book review of Belichick's just recently released book, The Art of Winning. You think the Boston Globe is going to read or listen or react to her? She's going to tell them what to write in a book review, just like she was going to tell the CBS anchor what to ask and not ask. We're not talking about that. And I swear to you, John, because I live this world. I know my media world. CBS, after taking all that crap, she interfered 8 times in 35 minutes and then delayed it for 30 minutes in an argument. CBS decided to include her in the Belichick interview so everybody saw what Bill's babe was trying to do to the content of the interview. I swear to you that was the payback. And the national media just piling on. I read the New York Times, Boston Globe, San Francisco Examiner or Chronicle, all had different reviews. None of them were positive towards Belichick. And this whole thing here, now everybody's doing a dive into Belichick's past and her past. Belichick dated 3 different women after he divorced his long-term wife. She was dating a 64-year-old man, dumped him to go to the 73-year-old Belichick.
Oh, my God.
Now, you want to take my opinion and connect the dots on the rest of the story?
Right.
She's got money everywhere. Money from the first guy she was with, obviously Belichick's money. She spent $8 million in 3 weeks to buy 2 homes in Boston and 1 out on Cape Cod. She's 24, a former cheerleader. That's what I'm telling you. Patriot players on social media, they're just destroying Belichick's relationship with his woman. They can't believe that Belichick is doing this. I think that Belichick's curmudgeon approach to doing the CBS interview was a combination of anger, embarrassment, and response to being blackballed out of the National Football League. You think he's going to get any good reviews from anybody? This whole idea that she could control the media in the interview session is going to destroy this book. You're going to pay $35 to read that? Now, by the way, book reviews just came out, and they are writing, this is the dark side of Belichick. Amongst the quotes, Belichick says, football's like a math equation. You can solve it, with the exception being Tom Brady. And that Belichick, over the course of his run in New England, was not interested in any of the players' catchphrases. Don't talk to me about your potential. Don't talk to me about your injuries. Don't talk to me if you've been out drinking in a bar the night before practice and you cramp up. Just do your damn job. And this went on and on and on to the point football was no longer fun in New England. Do you know that there's no reference to Kraft and the Patriots in the book? No reference to the first head coaching job, Modell and the Browns. It was a disaster in Cleveland. And no mention about him walking out on the Jets, the Giants, and Parcells in the book. It's just his philosophy of what he thinks, etc. So it's not a tell-all book. It could have been, I think it could have potential to be just spectacular, but we're not talking about that, according to Jordan Hudson. John, it's absolutely staggering, the response that is just piled on top of the pile. And now North Carolina has done an intervention, and she is not going to be part of him as it relates to the operation of the North Carolina football program. There you go.
Holy crap. So let's pretend for a minute that this Jordan Hudson woman didn't exist. And he comes out with a book, as you described, talking about his philosophy and, football is an equation, only Tom Brady can solve it. In his regular curmudgeon self, I mean, that has some legs. I mean, that's marketable. That's part of the Belichick brand. But now this woman rolls in and you say she's buying $8 million, buying 2 houses on Cape Cod, 3 houses. This just destroys everything we've known about Bill Belichick. It's turned him into a cartoon, like a pathetic. We have sympathy for him in a way.
No, I don't think anyone's got sympathy for the hoodie.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's spending his money, right, on these houses. So, I mean, this guy could get taken to the cleaners. I mean, granted, I mean, I understand the young woman and how enticing that might be and put a smile on your face every night, but come on, man. I mean, so did UNC is the one that demoted him, not Belichick?
No, they did an intervention. But they've said you will hire a public relations expert with experience, and he will handle all your work within the North Carolina football program, appearances, interview requests, etc. And he will take over your book tour.
Well, okay. And does that mean when he's on the practice field, she's still going to be like his wingman, running around in her little hot pants?
Hot pants and, the leather boots up to the knee.
I mean,
cartoon.
It is. I mean, the sex must be great. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
You said
this whole thing. I know I said it, but that's what we all are thinking.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's where we are on the Belichick thing. I told you the story was going to go on and grow, et cetera, et cetera. And just the way he acted for such a long period of time in the NFL, he was just so hard to deal with. Although I interviewed him 4 or 5 times and I found him fascinating, but I didn't have to deal with the crap day after day after day. I just think everybody that he's offended, and the line goes from here out to area code 617 in Boston. Man, those people are just piling on. Payback. It is absolutely amazing. And by the way, there's a football season for him to coach. That's going to be intriguing too.
That's going to be weird. Yeah. I mean, it'll be like Colorado and Coach Prime. It'll be must-see TV.
Okay, that's all things Belichick. You got a comment about the hoodie, Bill and the Babe, Fans Forum chat box. Should I use the term, leave no stone unturned? Tell us what you think. You want to throw rocks, throw rocks. That's why we're doing the Fans Forum part of this podcast. So we go from that. We got other NFL stories to talk about. John, let's just move on down the road here.
Move on down the road, NFL Notebook, and we've got some player deals.
Cleveland Browns, stopping point. All their quarterbacks are in their facility now. I got 5 of them. Now, remember, this is a Browns franchise that started 40 different quarterbacks since 1999. So they got 5. One can't play, Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco's got a little bit of gas left in the tank, they hope. Kenny Pickett has never lived up to expectation. And then you got the kids they drafted, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Sanders showed up for his first full press conference. I want the chance to compete for the #1 quarterback job right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to respect the vets, but I want the vets to respect me. In essence, what Shedeur Sanders is saying, I was not a 5th-round draft pick. I'm going to compete for #1 and win #1.
Good for him.
He went on and on and on. The Browns, Andrew Berry, the general manager, came back in response to his first set of interviews after Shedeur Sanders was finally interviewed. Too good a value to pass up in the 5th round. You people criticizing the Browns forgot we gave up 2 draft picks to get to him in the 5th round. You don't find that kind of talent in the 5th round. So Andrew Berry has said, we think this guy's got skill. Well, if he had skill, why the hell didn't you draft him earlier? And the Browns passed him 5 times. Raiders had 9 picks. They passed him. Steelers passed him in 4 rounds. So anyhow, Shedeur is there, and he wants to be the starting quarterback. Baltimore Ravens. This could turn out to be a good signing. I trust everything Baltimore does in terms of player personnel. Ravens have signed Joe Noteboom, starting right guard, right tackle with the LA Rams. He was very serviceable, multiple positions, multiple years as starter. Ravens have just signed him. Raiders are setting up visits. The aftermath of the draft, guess who they're bringing in? Charger wide receiver, Bears wide receiver, Keenan Allen.
Hey.
That'd be a good acquisition. They've got a really good deep threat in Jacoby Myers. They got the state-of-the-art tight end. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Brock Bowers from Georgia. The other tight end from Notre Dame is still there. Keenan Allen's a great route runner. Short stuff, catch the ball, doesn't drop it, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Now, he's going to take a pay cut. He's not going to get $15 million because that's what he got the final group of years with the Bears and prior to that with the Chargers. But that might be a good acquisition if they got him. And Seattle, they're shopping for people. I think the Seahawks have done a really good job in terms of what they did with the draft and obviously some free agent acquisitions led by the quarterback Sam Darnold. Seattle's worked out Asante Samuel, who'd been a starter for chunks of time with the San Diego Chargers and the LA Chargers, and he's gone from starter on the unemployment line, but that had a lot to do with a lot of nagging injuries last season. So that's where we are. Shedeur. It's going to be a soap opera in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. And I like that. If a young kid comes in, he goes, I'm going to compete for the starting job. I want him to have that confidence, and I would expect nothing less from him. But I want to kind of maybe put you on the spot here.
Oh, here we go.
But it should be fun.
Is this payback?
Okay. No, it's all right. Okay, out of those 40 quarterbacks for the Browns over the last 25 years, name as many as you can right now.
I can't.
Come on.
My brain is fogged.
Come on, like Deshaun Watson, obviously, Joe Flacco. I mean, the list is huge.
Well, it started with the kid out of Kentucky that was the very high #1 draft pick who got hurt.
That was Couch or Crouch?
Tim Couch.
Couch.
Never. They couldn't keep him on the field,
and
it just cascaded from there all the way down.
Was Johnny Manziel was in that list?
Yes, not very long. Baker Mayfield was supposed to be the next one that was going to be really special, and he was hot and cold, and he wasn't ready. But he played his guts out, and it's taken him time to mature. And you've seen what Baker Mayfield's done down in Tampa. But everybody but Frank Ryan and Milt Plum. You don't know who those guys are.
No, I don't.
Those are legendary Browns quarterbacks when the Browns were really good.
Was that like Otto Graham days or something?
That was in between Otto Graham and the Bernie Kosar era. But they were really credible quarterbacks. Kosar is obviously the superstar of all time before concussions kind of ended his career. But just think about it, 40 different starting quarterbacks since 1999, 40 different starting quarterbacks in 25 years. Bad drafts, bad injuries, bad mistakes in terms of player personnel. What a nightmare.
Well, I remember when I first followed the Browns, during the playoffs in the 70s, and it was Brian Sipe.
Sure.
And he was pretty good.
For a short period of time, Cardiac Kids.
Yeah, he was good. And then, the Bernie Kosar era was interesting, and those classic games with the Broncos. But it's just this franchise is just so cursed. It's just horrible.
Oh, the drive, the fumble,
one thing after another.
And now you got Deshaun Watson's albatross of a contract.
So tell me, but when you were there in Cleveland, I mean, was the dog pound a thing at that time?
It was starting to become a thing. But I was there during Sam Rutigliano was the head coach, and he had replaced Forrest Gregg. Forrest Gregg, the legend from Green Bay, they thought they're going to really be good, and they drafted running backs, and they all got hurt. And they 1 year they were 0-9 out of the gate. I couldn't believe it. And of course, Jimmy Brown had already retired, and they just went through a bad cycle. But Rutigliano came, Sipe came. They drafted a running back out of Purdue. Mike Pruitt came. There was Greg Pruitt, the running back from Oklahoma. They had journeyman wide receivers who made plays. Their defense was just tough as nails. The Clay Matthews of the world, Clay Matthews Sr.
Well, Ozzie Newsome.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had a good run. They called them the Cardiac Kids. Sipe was the trigger man. He was undersized as a quarterback, but he had guts of a burglar. He'd stay in there and make plays. And they had some good runs, but they also were stigmatized because they just got killed in the playoffs. I mean, the fumble on the goal line that would have gotten them into an AFC championship game 1 year. Elway's 99-yard drive in the mud that would have gotten them into deep into the playoffs the next year. It was just heartbreak all over the place. And then it went down, and franchise got sold multiple times. And then Modell moved the franchise. And then the reincarnation of Cleveland Browns came in 1999. But just think about 40 different starting quarterbacks in 25 years.
I mean, just insane. I mean, it just really is insane. So I feel for those people in Cleveland. Just a quick on the Ravens. You were talking about how you trust the organization and make the right draft. But when the Chargers brought Joe Ortiz to L.A., were they bringing all that smarts, all that brain trust?
He ran their draft room. Now, he was not the general manager. Ernie DaCosta is the general manager, but he was the right-hand man. And they drafted great defense. Their philosophy is really different from a lot of other people. Their philosophy is, John, we really like you, but we're going to get rid of you a year too early from doing this podcast rather than make you an anchor and drag this podcast down because we kept you a year too late.
Right.
They've done that annually, but they always draft well. So I trust their draft. And obviously, John Harbaugh's got input into that whole thing. But yeah, Ortiz ran their draft room for them, for their general manager.
Okay. All right.
Okay. That's all things National Football League. Let's move on. We got so many other things we're going to talk about. Let's get to halftime. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. It does not matter what you're looking for. It could be a screwdriver. It could be a pair of pliers. It could be somebody who works in the garage and does a lot of fix-at-home stuff. Dixieline can provide you all the tools. And in the bigger sphere of influence, Dixieline's all about lumber. Dixieline's about closets. Dixieline's about cabinets. Dixieline's about flooring. Dixieline checks all the boxes in terms of what they can do for you, the homeowner. Did I enunciate that correctly?
I think you got it right. I mean, how about kitchen transformation? Putting in the granite countertop, those really high-end, cabinets that slide out. There's a lot of automation solutions there for kitchen. All the faucetry, the cabinets, the countertops, the backsplashes, and they have designers there at Dixieline that'll, measure out your kitchen and help you figure out a plan and be kind of a designer or sort of a kitchen architect for you.
We should hold a Hacksaw Insider Group meeting here at John's Castle, because you can walk through the house and see everything that Dixieline is all about. 9 locations to serve you. Dixieline Lumber, located in San Diego, and of course the new company up in Dana Point. Just go to Dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. You like sports? Hey, we want you to join us when we're done with Topics on the Table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done. We open it up for you. Fans Forum chat box is open. Just fill this sucker up with questions, answers, and opinions, especially some of the hot topics on the table that we're talking about daily.
They want to talk hockey.
That's cool.
Everyone wants to talk hockey.
We're getting to that page too. By the way, check my website. I write on it every day of the week, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. When you do that, there's an orange box on my homepage on the website. Fill that out. You get on the email list. You get 2 emails a day about the world of sports. So check that out and become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Want you on my social media Twitter all-star team? Just type my name up there at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. Then every time I put something up on the social media account on X, including my mini polls, you get the chance to vote and comment there. Want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, you get alerts. Every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, and we do jam a lot of videos and commentaries up on the YouTube channel, you get the alerts there too. So we cover this whole thing on social media. We are in the air everywhere. Is that a correct phrase?
High tech and interactive Hacksaw in the modern 21st century.
With a Royal Manual typewriter on the shelf in his garage still.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to it. We got a lot more to go. By the way, do us a favor. Thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. What platform do they go to give us a thumbs up?
Well, every platform you can give a thumbs up,
Okay.
you know,
and give us the 5-star rating. And where do they do that?
Apple Podcasts.
Okay, because that helps us greatly. All right, we move on. Second half. We're going to talk some hoops. We're going to do something a little bit different here.
Yeah, we're talking about Coach Pop, the big changes in San Antonio.
Yeah. What a unique man. Marched to his tune of his own drum. Independent thinker. Brilliant guy. Beloved in the NBA by players who played for him that he developed and guys that played against him and coached against him. You know, we talked early in the season, GREGG Popovich was hospitalized for an extended period, suffered a minor stroke, took him forever to get his strength back, was supposed to return in January, elected not to come because he still didn't feel right, and now he's stepped away as head coach. He's become the president of the San Antonio Spurs. His farewell press conference today was really funny, and that's usually not Popovich. He showed up wearing a T-shirt. And I majored in French in high school, not very well. But he showed up with something that said Algier. And I think if you anglicize it, it means I'm the president. So he showed up. So he took his sports jacket up, Algier.
Okay.
So everybody howled and laughed. But the outpouring of respect is unbelievable. Coach, friend, confidant. Over 1,400 wins for Pop, 5 NBA championships, made the playoffs 22 years in a row. A man of standards and a man of loyalty. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and now the current super big man, Wembanyama. Smartest guy in the NBA who I don't think he really got a hell of a lot of credit till he actually got named to the Hall of Fame. And maybe that's just because San Antonio's off the beaten path. San Antonio's not on a highway, really. San Antonio's not big market. San Antonio's about the Alamo. I dealt with him a couple times. I found him a little standoffish, a little tough to deal with. He was volatile as a personality. He didn't give a crap what John Riley thought or what Hacksaw thought. Not at all. He told the media what he wanted to tell the media, and he was stubborn with the media when he wanted to be stubborn with the media. He was one of the first guys in sports to look towards the White House and say, you're freaking wrong. And he has been nonstop in his criticism of your president. He's unique. I'm glad he fought back from the stroke, the wears, the tears, the stress of being an NBA coach. He just woke up and realized, I can't do this anymore the way I've done it in the past. And the past was so unbelievably successful. And not only to the Spurs and the NBA, but what he contributed to Team USA and the Olympic ventures. I just think a great, great man. Really cut from a different cloth. Very different personality. We're talking about all things Belichick, all things Popovich too. It's kind of right up there, but good guy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they ever do a biopic movie on this guy, you got to get Donald Sutherland to star as him. It'd be perfect. But I remember when Popovich was an assistant for the Golden State Warriors. He was there for a little while, and then he goes to San Antonio, and everyone was always raving about this guy, and it was unusual. I mean, San Antonio is a blossoming market, and it's kind of near Austin, but they're getting. It just was interesting that he was sort of tucked away there.
Yep.
And he was loyal and he stayed where, you could have gone for the big money in New York or wherever else. And I like the fact that he was outspoken, but it's interesting that he was outspoken in a state where most of the people don't like what he has to say.
That's right.
And so that takes a lot more bravery. And then it could, and really doing that could really undermine ticket sales and everything else.
Now they're winning because they got big men, and he don't care what the critics say. Screw them.
So I'm thinking, you were talking about names. I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of great Spurs during his era, and obviously Tim Duncan was there, and
David Robinson, and Wembanyama, and Kawhi Leonard.
Now, was Sean Elliott there during his time frame? I remember him. He was a terrific player. And then the kid from France. Who was it? Tony Parker?
Parker and Manu Ginobili from Spain.
No, he was from Argentina or something. Wasn't he from South America?
Anyhow,
yeah.
The Spurs were one of the first ones, and he had something to do with it. Mined the European theater for players. Nobody had ever done that before. All of a sudden, the two guards came from abroad, Parker and Ginobili.
Yeah. And then Patty Mills, I remember, was there. And was Patty Mills from a foreign nation?
I think France.
He might be, yeah, because I know he was St. Mary's, and that was part of the pipeline that
from Europe.
Yeah, that Randy Benedict cooked up. So he's still involved, Popovich still involved as president, but I mean, he had a stroke. I mean, that's pretty serious.
Minor stroke.
Well, okay, that's
LGs. Don't argue with him.
Okay, well, sometimes that's your body is talking to you, and it's time to take a step back.
I bet you didn't know this, where he started. Air Force Academy.
Really?
He played at the Air Force Academy. He graduated at the Air Force Academy. He was an assistant at the Air Force Academy.
Well, that speaks a lot to his integrity and his character.
Standards, loyalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cool guy. Different guy. Really cool. But he's staying in the NBA as LGs of the San Antonio Spurs. We go from that to the NBA playoffs. Do we really have to talk about this?
The Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, both went down in flames.
Nice headline. Disappointment or disaster. Lakers. They have praised the big three. They've ignored the reality that there's nothing else on the roster. And I think they've failed. I think they've failed LeBron. I think they've obviously did not put enough around the center. They did not do enough for Luka. They got Austin Reeves. Massive hole in the paint. Offense, defense, rim protector. They've just not developed young players. Now, rumor is that they're going to go into the marketplace and they're going to make a move to try to go get at least a shot blocker. And the guy they're going after is Clint Capella, Atlanta Hawks, former Houston Rocket. Big 7-foot guy, blocks shots, big wingspan. Not much offensively. Backup idea might be Brook Lopez from the Milwaukee Bucks, who's about to become a walk free agent. I just think it's going to be hard for them because the salary cap limitations, and the only stuff they've got used they can trade would be to trade their number one pick in 2031 and Dalton Connect. Because I don't think any of those other guys, with the exception of Hachimura, but how do you help yourself if you trade Hachimura? You're moving more people out who can play. So they got a big challenge ahead of themselves.
2031.
Yeah, because the league has a rule. You cannot trade number one picks in consecutive years.
Oh.
So they've traded picks. So the only number one pick they can trade is in 2031.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's where they are. They have a lot of work ahead of themselves, even though they love Luka, they love LeBron, and they love Austin Reeves. The other team are the Clippers. What a letdown, or should I say, what underachievement. These guys won 20 of their last 24, got into the playoffs as the hottest team in the league. They were up by 15 in Denver in the first game. I thought it was locked. They let it get away, and they just never really gathered it back. They wound up losing Game 7. They wound up getting killed in Game 7. They're going to have to step back away from the carnage and evaluate, is it time to rebuild again? This is a franchise that rebuilt itself and gave you Blake Griffin and Chris Paul III. This is a franchise that rebuilt itself and gave you Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Neither one of those projects got to the finish line because of injuries, and now injuries and age. I just don't think that Harden and Kawhi fit any longer. And they're older. Harden is 36. Kawhi's 33. Kawhi's on a minutes limit. He's playing half a season now for you. Hats off to Kawhi for doing so much good down the stretch and into the playoffs because he kind of carried them. And in terms of Harden, I'm tired of seeing the act. He disappeared in 3 of the 7 games against Denver. In the 7th game, the most important game of the season, John, he had 2 baskets in 35 minutes. This guy's making $36 million a year. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I think I'd shop him. Find somebody, because everybody's willing to take on a bad contract if it's only a 1-year deal, and they'll get the cap space once. I think they need to get him out of there, because I don't want to say he's poison, but I just don't know that he's a consistent team guy. He blew off. He did not appear. He's going to get fined by the NBA. He didn't appear for any of the 3 losses in the postgame press conference.
That's weak.
And then I guess the other question is, what do you do with Kawhi? He's got $50 million a year, 2 more years on the contract. But if he's only going to be a part-time player for half the season because you have to manage his minutes, is that worth keeping? Or should they go into full rebuild mode? They got some real tough decisions to make. I just don't think I want Harden back on my team. And I just don't think the Lakers have the assets to be able to fix this thing. I don't care what Rob Pelinka says. How are they going to get players in there and put around those 3 guys? And it's obvious. When you got age, you got a real problem. Your thoughts, Lakers, Clippers, and don't shoot air balls.
The Lakers, we were talking about how they have been backing themselves into a corner, and that corner gets tighter and tighter. And here we are. I mean, who's going to be chomping at the bit to try to get the Lakers 2031 first-round draft pick? I mean, that has like minimal value right now. I mean, you're talking about should the Clippers rebuild? I mean, the question is it time for the LeBron to retire? Is it time for LeBron to move on? Because it just ain't working in LA.
Yeah. 1 championship in 9 years with King James. I guess I'm shocked. Maybe I'm in the minority. I can't be in the minority. I'm the smartest person on the planet. I put a mini poll up on Friday on my X account asking a question: who's to blame for the catastrophe as Laker basketball is? It's not what it used to be. Like 49 or 51% of the people said it's all on LeBron. 0 said it was on Luka. Maybe 30% said it was on Pelinka. Maybe 20% said it was on JJ Redick. Why did the I hate LeBron syndrome? I don't understand that.
Well, have you seen LeBron flopping all the time? Mm-hmm. I mean, he would get bumped and he would go down like a sack of potatoes. I mean,
kind of like Draymond Green.
No, like a soccer player from the English Premier League, just flopping out there. And I'm like, what are you doing, LeBron James? And people were even angry with him for yucking it up with Anthony Edwards and smiling during that series with the Timberwolves. And it's like, dude, come on, get out there and be a beast, be ferocious, go out there and kill, the other team. And I just wonder if he has that instinct.
You don't think he's a gladiator?
No. I mean, how do I say this? He certainly isn't like the movie The Gladiator, like the number one guy that you're going to count on that's going to take everybody out. He's the guy that should be the number one gladiator, but isn't. And every once in a while, he's going to win. If it's, with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in Miami, they won a couple. He had that one nice run with Cleveland. And he had the asterisk year with the Lakers. I mean, how many championships? He has 4, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this dude, if
you're telling me he's not Michael Jordan is what you're telling me.
Yes, but he's not. I mean, Steve Kerr has more rings as a player, not counting what he has as a coach. So it's just like LeBron is like A-. He could be an A, but he just doesn't go that extra distance.
So you're the one that voted. It was LeBron's fault, huh? You and
Yeah,
51 other
I go on
friends.
those polls sometimes, and I think I did vote on that one. I think I did select LeBron.
What are we doing about the Clippers? What are you telling Steve Ballmer?
Steve Ballmer, man, he just tries hard, and he deserves a championship here. Yeah, Harden, see you later, alligator. I mean, that guy is something else. I mean, we even questioned when he came over and if he was going to be a really good fit. Kawhi, I just can't see any scenario where you get rid of Kawhi, But if you're a season ticket holder and you want to see the Clippers throughout the regular season and Kawhi's only playing halftime, that kind of screws the season ticket holders. Yep. So what do you do? It seems like they're a team that has the potential to rise higher if they were able to make the right fit. Where I don't know if the Lakers have any scenario that isn't going to just be neutral or negative.
Exactly.
The Clippers have a potential to have a positive outlook if they make the right moves. But I'm not sure what they need. I guess get rid of Harden and maybe get maybe more of a pass first point guard.
Okay. One sidebar here, talking NBA. How about the Game 7? How about Houston at home, all their young guns, and the grizzled old Golden State Warriors came in and kicked them in Game 7. And that's hitting the hot button with all their experience, shot the lights out, hit 19 threes in Game 7. Houston, which is never in that game, and that was on their home court. I mean, it's a learning experience for such a really young team. But Kerr got those guys cranked up after they lost Game 6 back in the Bay Area. They walked into Houston, and they just whacked them.
Yeah, I heard comments from Jimmy Butler after Game 6, and he said, we should have won this, but I'm confident we're going to go win Game 7 in Houston. I'm like, oh, geez, Jimmy, I hope you're right, And then that game, Curry was just magnificent. I mean, not only hitting the threes, but just the hesitation moves and the stutters, and to be able to drive into the lane and get layups. I mean, just tremendous. Even Buddy Hield was going nuts hitting threes in that game. So, yeah, now the Warriors advance. I think the Warriors are now going to play the Timberwolves.
That's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
Minnesota's young, sitting there waiting to jump on somebody.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, they're going to be difficult to beat, but so are the Rockets. So I think the Warriors, have a chance to beat the Timberwolves where the Lakers didn't have a chance at all.
Okay, NBA. You want to talk hoops, Lakers, Clippers? Fans Forum chat box is open for business. Let's talk college football here, John.
Okay, you got some good names here on the list, including our San Diego State Aztecs.
Yeah, let's just talk about a couple different storylines here. Big story out of Austin, Texas. Why did he do this? He has publicly said there is no remorse. I'm not looking back. I'm not questioning. I'm not second guessing. Quinn Ewers, 7th round draft pick, Miami. And a big question, what happened to him? Well, he played well in spurts. He didn't play well in crunch time in some key games. He seemed to be always hurt his last year and a half at UT. He had aspirations to be a second-round pick. Holy cow. He goes in the 7th round. We thought it was shocking what happened to Shadur Sanders. Nobody's talked about Ewers. So anyhow, Ewers finally held a press conference in Austin. Said he's prepared, to go to the NFL and prove that he can play. He says, I don't regret giving up all the money to go be a 7th round draft pick. Vegas, new coaching staff. Again, they just continue to change coaches every other year. They just got a San Diego State quarterback. They got Derek Garcia, ex-Aztec top recruit, who last week decommitted. He's a kid out of Ventura County, big 6'4" quarterback who had signed on with Sean Lewis very early on, made the verbal commitment right out of the gate when they opened the window, and then backed away after they brought in the transfer from Michigan. They brought in, obviously, the freshman quarterback from Long Beach. That's why he backed away. He's going to Vegas. He's going to be the starter. Aztecs, they still have a few scholarships left. This turnstile up on Montezuma Mesa in the football program, I just don't think it's good. There is no continuity. It's like you're going back to square one every year under Sean Lewis. I did a research piece. They had a ton of guys who went into the transfer portal right at the end of the season, and then in the spring. There are 19 Aztec players unsigned still.
19?
19.
I'm surprised it's that low.
Well, I mean, they had a lot last year that went in and didn't find a place to play. So that's just really, that's tough. San Diego State, it's like they're in constant rebuild mode. And boy, there's a lot of people that just don't believe Sean Lewis is the right guy. Give him space. Let's just see. We can't be sitting here, though, a year from today when you're doing this podcast with the mascot sniffer. We can't be sitting here with another 3-9 football season.
Oh, yeah, no.
Guarantee you that. This Iowa State story is really seedy. The NCAA has suspended 5 Cyclone football staffers for running an in-house betting ring in which they placed 6,200 bets worth $101,000 with something like FanDuel or DraftKings, betting on pro and college games, including betting on the Cyclones. Now, there were some players that were dragged into this about a year and a half ago, including one guy who was a starting quarterback. 6,200 bets. These people don't read the NCAA rule book that you can't do this. 5 staffers expelled, in essence, of their careers in college football. So, John, go ahead, comment.
Quinn Ewers, okay. Did you see what he looked like as a freshman? I mean, he looked like he was coming from Appalachia, from the Hatfields and McCoys. He had the long hair, the long beard, and this dude was like one of the top quarterback prospects in college football. And I was like mesmerized by that guy. Who is this? Doesn't look at all like a Texas athlete. And then he cleaned up his act. But I'll tell you, when I've watched him play, now granted, I didn't watch a lot of Texas Longhorns games, but when I did watch, he never really impressed me that much.
He didn't dominate.
No, not at all. And so the fact that he went 7th round, he's another guy that I think everyone thought was going to be a lot better.
Surrounded by awful good people.
Well, he had that Golden kid as the receiver there.
Yeah, he had multiple receivers and 2 good running backs and very high first-round draft pick tackle, Kelvin Banks. I guess maybe the phrase would be he managed games. I don't know that he won a hell of a lot of games for them. He managed the games, and they got so many. Sarkisian had so many kids drafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's I'm glad he got drafted, but yeah, he's not a first or a second round pick. The UNLV thing, I mean, good on them for trying to get a new recruit here. But if I'm that kid, that ended up going to UNLV, you want to play. You want to have a chance to compete for a starting position.
Well, the guy that was a starter last year, Hadri Williams, left. He's gone, signed a free agent street contract in the NFL.
Yeah. So that there it goes. I mean, you could strategically pick where you might want to go. I get it. I mean, clearly this guy isn't interested in an education. I mean, San Diego State is far superior, but as far as Sean Lewis goes, I mean, I feel for the guy. I mean, he's dealing right now with a program at a really weird time because his transfer portal's gone bananas. He's got the new stadium and he's got expectations around that. And the team was out of San Diego for a couple of years. And now all these expectations are, you need to be better. We need to sell out this stadium. And he's trying like hell, but it's got to be hard for him.
It's like Grand Central Station. That Aztec Athletic Center, there's so many new guys walking in that building every day. There's just been no continuity at all. Tough to see what's happened at San Diego State. It's even tougher to try to understand why the hell the alumni and the Aztecs for life don't support football. Just shocks the hell out of me. Okay, that's all things college football. Like I say, we do sports talk the way it should be done. We put topics on the table, and we ask you to join us. Fans Forum chat box is open. The O Canada Network is tuned in now for this next segment. NHL Notebook.
Yeah, they're chomping at the bit. That was a big Game 7 last night, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we're going a lot of different directions. First of all, we'll start with what happened to the Los Angeles Kings in their playoffs, and now what happened to Los Angeles Kings this morning. Had to blame somebody. I think they blamed the wrong guy. I was shocked. The Kings fired general manager Rob Blake. Now, he'd been on the job 8 years. He took over a franchise that had won a couple Stanley Cups. He took over a franchise that had huge salary cap problems. He took over a franchise that had age. He rebuilt it multiple times. They fired Rob Blake, the general manager, because they've never won a playoff series with Rob Blake. He's fixed the roster. They had 50-plus wins this season, but they got ousted 5 times in the first round of the playoffs, and he's out. He drafted well. I went through the roster. He'd made 6 positive trades in the last year and a half. He was haunted by the one trade that initially did not work out, the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade with Winnipeg, but then he got Washington to take Dubois' contract. He's their problem. He got Darcy Kemper, the star goaltender, who's probably going to be number 2 in the Vezina Trophy. I feel bad because I think he was betrayed by the president of the team, Luc Robitaille, and they were tight. They were teammates for a long time through a lot of really good years. I just thought it was awful. Jim Hillier is still the coach, and he's the one that made all the tactical moves that I think killed him, losing 4 straight to the Edmonton Oilers. The new general manager coming in will have to make a decision on Hillier, but I like Blake. I don't know why you would fire Blakey. You wouldn't fire Robitaille, who's the business manager of a successful franchise. They should have given Blake an additional year, and Blake's got more draft picks, and he's got $28 million in cap space that he's stockpiled. They could have added on to what I thought was a really good hockey team. I'm just really shocked. Winnipeg Jets.
Wow.
I heard you screaming at the TV.
It was unbelievable.
And you don't even live close to me. John was screaming. Can't believe the Winnipeg Jets scored 2 goals in the final 2 minutes of regulation after trailing, get the thing into the second overtime, and score on a deflection goal in the win, eliminate the St. Louis Blues. I'll tell you, it was a brassy decision made by Scott Arniel, the coach, to stay with Connor Hellebuck because he had a 7.50 goals against average in this playoff series. He'd been knocked out of 3 road games, got pulled because he'd given up so many goals to St. Louis Blues. He'd allowed 20 goals in 6 games. And then in the first period, he gave up 2 goals right in the onset. St. Louis had a 2-0 lead in Game 7, and Winnipeg just kept coming back. And the Blues are really dangerous. The Blues got 10 players who had double-digit goals this season. A whole bunch of guys that scored 20 goals on the season. And the Jets had to do this without Mark Scheifele, one of their star forwards who got a terrible hit and jolt in Game 5, has not played since. Stayed in the series without Nick Ehlers, who finally came back, didn't play very well last night. Were without Gabe Velarde for a chunk of time. They lost their big defenseman Josh Morrissey in the first period last night. They just kept pumping shots, traffic in front of the net. Jordan Binnington was stoning him. I think he had 46 saves, but they just put so many shots on net that finally pucks started to hit people in front and go in, or pucks hit a stick and bounced in, and Winnipeg moves on. They cooled off a Blues team that had won 16 of 22 going into Game 7. Man, my heart was in my throat. Game 7s are so hard, and I thought, oh, this is going to be awful in Winnipeg. They had the best record in the league, Vezina Trophy winning goaltender, and they're 2 minutes away from going on vacation. And I've been in Game 7s when your team is about to get eliminated and there's nothing you can freaking do about it. And I thought this was going to happen. All of a sudden, 2 goals in 2 minutes when they pull the goaltender, and then they win it in the second overtime. It was just absolutely spectacular to see. A couple of other notes here. Edmonton Oilers, tough decision after they eliminate the Kings. What are they going to do in goal as they move on to the second round? They're going to play Calvin Pickard, the career minor leaguer who backstopped him to win 4 in a row, or they're going back to Stuart Skinner, who gave up 11 goals in 2 games to the Kings. Oilers have a tough decision to make. New York Rangers, first offseason hire of a head coach, Mike Sullivan. He was unemployed for all of 2 days. Ex-Pittsburgh Penguin coach, 2 Stanley Cup rings. He goes to the Rangers. And in Vancouver, they're scrambling to try to start interviewing after losing Rick Tocchet. Vancouver's going to interview Peter Laviolette, ex-Washington Caps, New York Rangers head coach. They're also going to interview a guy who's got great credentials out of the American Hockey League, former longtime NHL player Manny Malhotra. He was their coach of the AHL team. So, John, a lot of topics on the table. Your comments on Rob Blake and your comments on Game 7 Winnipeg.
Well, I want to talk about Winnipeg, and I want to talk actually about the Rangers. So that Winnipeg game was crazy. And you know, again, I'm still kind of a hockey newbie, but what an entertaining game. And one of the things that's fun, you know, in sports in general, but in hockey specifically, is to look at the fans, you know, and the cool thing about hockey, and you're seeing it more in other sports, is there's a lot of fans that are outside and they're watching on the big screen. You know, maybe they don't have enough money to get into the arena. And this series started, wasn't it 2-0?
Yeah, Winnipeg won the first 2 games.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we're thinking, hey, maybe they're going to roll here, and then it ended up getting into a game 7 with, in the middle of the third quarter, everybody.
Third period.
Pardon me. Excuse me. Third period.
Novice.
Yeah, there's no fourth quarter if there's only
Rookie.
3. Yeah, I'm a rookie. In the third period, you see it was a whiteout, and most of the people like had their hands over their face. I mean, they couldn't look, or they were just sitting back with their arms crossed, and I was like, no energy.
They were pumping shot after shot on Binnington. He kept kicking it out.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And so then they, you know, you're down 2, there's 2 minutes left, and the fans just, they look like they're about to melt. They just look like they're going to have the worst night of their life. And then they get that goal with about 2 minutes left. And you're like, hey, there's a chance, you know, there's possibilities here. And they pulled their goalie, and, you know, and they had the advantage. They're taking all these shots, and there's like 20 seconds left, 15 seconds left. You're like, oh, it's toast. There's no way.
1.8.
It was 1.6, you know, and I remember they had the puck like kind of behind the goal with like 5 seconds left, and they passed it up in front of the goal. And I'm like, shoot the puck. You know, there's only a few seconds left. They made one extra pass, and it snuck in with 1.6. I mean, there was absolutely no way to make a play. And then it goes not into single overtime, but to double overtime. And was one of the longest games, 7s or games in
third
NHL.
Longest in history of the NHL. Goes back to 1917, I think. Third longest game 7 ever.
Just incredible. I mean, so and I remember the St. Louis Blues. We didn't really talk much about them in the regular season.
Well, they got hot at the end, but by the time they got to the finish line, they'd won 12 in a row, and they forged their way into this thing. Didn't have home ice, but
yeah, they look really good, you know. So Winnipeg is relieved, you know, they'll go on to the next round. But just quickly on the Rangers. Last night, I stumbled across this new ESPN 30 for 30 that was about this day in history, and it was June 17th of 1994, when all these different sporting events seemed to converge on that day, and it was awesome. And the ESPN writers interwove the whole O.J. Simpson chase with A.C. Cowling, the Rangers parade after they had won the Stanley Cup in 1994 for the first time in forever. It included Arnold Palmer at the U.S. Open, the last time that he was on the regular pro circuit before he went to the seniors. It was a really emotional. It included the NBA playoffs, the Rockets and the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. You know, and then Rudy Giuliani is out there for the parade with the Rangers, and it was Go Knicks. And there's something else. So there was Ken Griffey Jr. hitting his 30th home run by June 17th in 1994. And then that was the season that went to a strike. It was fascinating the way all these stories were interwoven. Of course, the O.J. Simpson was the big story, but it was interesting for me as a hockey newbie to understand more about how New York fans went through so much misery prior to 1994, and then they haven't won anything since, have they?
No. And they keep trying. They had a good team, and they fired the coach and new general manager, and he's kept making trades. So he got himself a really good coach in Mike Sullivan from Pittsburgh. So Hockey Hotline is open. Feel free to jump on board. Oh, Canada Network, I bet you got some opinions. Have you stopped drinking beer yet? Did the bars ever close on Portage and Main in downtown Winnipeg?
They're wiped out.
It was really
a wild night last night in Winnipeg.
Cool. All right, last topic on the table here. Names in the news.
Yeah, high-speed sports wire. PGA Tour kicking it off.
Oh, man. The Byron Nelson Classic in Texas. Byron Nelson is one of the great first superstars on the PGA Tour. Great gentleman. Scotty Scheffler, who made his first pro start at the Byron Nelson, Texas native, Scotty Scheffler burned the record books down. He finished at 31 under par for the 4 days in the Byron Nelson Classic. They showed a picture during the course of the tournament of a 6-year-old Scotty Scheffler at the tournament with a 94-year-old Byron Nelson. Byron, of course, was the ceremonial guy who'd make the first shot off the tee to start the tournament, and just a legend in the state of Texas. Scotty Scheffler had 29 birdies and 3 eagles in 4 days.
Holy moly.
He was 31 under par. And he's such a classy gentleman. He just, and you could just see all the guys who stayed around the 18th green to watch him do this. He tied the all-time PGA record going back to the early 1900s, the lowest 4-day score at 31 under par. I mean, it was really special. So we have a superstar. He might not be Tiger. He might not be Phil, but Scotty Scheffler. And, of course, he's fought back from a hand surgery, and he's finally started to really play good golf. And 31 under par, my God, nobody does that.
He's a borderline criminal, too. He almost...
Well, nah, that was a bad decision by a lot of different people. Let's talk about the Kentucky Derby. Rain, mud, too much speed. Severnante gets out of the traffic jam coming out of the 4th turn. Came from 6th place, held off Journalism, who went with him. Journalism was in 5th spot, and they both were caught in traffic coming out of the 4th turn and moved out. They found a seam, and they both went and ran wide down the final stretch. What a phenomenal sprint to the finish line. Torrid pace. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He had 19 horses. Citizen Bull, Bob Baffert's 3-year-old, started inside at number 1 and rocketed out of the gate. And there was so much contact coming out of the gate, I thought a horse or two was going to go down. Citizen Bull rocketed out and set a torrid pace, but ran itself out by the backstretch. And the general consensus is you start number 1, you preserve your speed because you're going to have the shortest distance to run. There will be traffic closing down on you. But Citizen Bull, just a jockey, I thought made a terrible mistake in the muddy conditions, rocketed out and then faded. Citizen Bull finished 15th and was in 1st place for half the race and just died out there. But it's interesting now. The conversation is none of the name horses that ran in the Derby are going to run on the second leg of the Triple Crown. They're all going to bypass the Preakness because it's only 2 weeks off. And they're going to save the horses to go to the Belmont Stakes up at Saratoga Springs, which is 5 weeks after that. So, I mean, it was an electric Derby in just god-awful conditions. And the last topic on the table, it wouldn't be Formula One if we didn't have controversy. Item 1, Miami Grand Prix. This kid from Argentina is really something. Oscar Piastri got the pole, ran from the pole, won his 3rd race in a row on the Formula One circuit this season. Had a 12-second lead. In his rearview mirror was the controversial Max Verstappen. He got into a duel with the other big driver on the F1 circuit, Lando Norris, and they darted and dashed past each other. You talk about bold, brazen moves on corners. I'm surprised neither one of them crashed. Both of them went almost on the paint on the edge of the track to pass each other. But they used up so much of their tires, and Piastri just ran away from them, built a 12-second lead. It was phenomenal. And then there was Mr. Ferrari Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton, the ex-Mercedes star. He got into an argument on the pit radio with his crew. They screwed up everything, and I don't understand. He was having a debate. When are we stopping? When are we doing the tire change? When should I make a pass? And his people in the pits are saying, we're talking about it. Well, he goes by the pits, so he can't make that stop on that lap, and he's losing time. He lost his mind on the radio with his pit crew because the Formula One broadcasters got hold of the audio. Says, what are you guys doing? I'm trying to win. You're sitting there having tea in the pits. He was really pissed. And they've had constant problems with communication, setup, race strategy, etc. Sir Lewis he qualified 12th, which was rotten. He finished 8th. And they thought they could get it inside the top 5. And he had trouble with the pit people deciding when to stop, what tires to change. So just the whole Sir Lewis thing to Ferrari's been bizarre. Okay, Scotty Scheffler. I'd ask you if you could identify with 31 under par, but I've seen you shoot golf balls. I know it's not possible, but go ahead, talk about that. Talk about the mud in the Derby.
A couple of things here. First of all, Byron Nelson is a old golfer, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because I mean, he's one of those names that I've heard of, and I know they have this tournament. But he must have been big time before Arnold Palmer
in the 40s, and he was involved in a terrible automobile accident, nearly died. He was out of golf forever, and he came back and he dominated.
Really?
Yeah, he was. Google that in your spare time. He's a phenomenal man. On the highways, this is really interesting. On the highways in the state of Texas, well, you're going to Texas, I guess, in a week. We're going to do our podcast on the road in the next couple of weeks here. On the highways, they have these highway signs with a top hat. Byron Nelson's top hat.
Really?
Yeah.
No idea.
Cool. Oh, he was a great gentleman. I mean, he was a different era, obviously, in the 40s into the 50s, but really special.
Then just a couple of quick hits here on the Kentucky Derby. MAGA Nation loved the result because sovereignty beat journalism. That's clever. You got to give it to him on that. So you could tip a red hat.
That might be the only time in my life.
Okay, and then the F1 thing is interesting to me because, first of all, the race is on Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Saturday I'm channel surfing and I'm like, oh yeah, the Miami Grand Prix. We were just talking about that. So I was watching it on Saturday, but it was more like time trials or, and so it's just individual cars on the track. But I loved the way the course was Miami. It had the aqua color painted on there and it was a great vibe. And I remember I was talking to my wife about it, and she's watched a lot of those F1 shows on Netflix and she's kind of into it a bit. And she's telling me, she says, wouldn't it be great, to go to an F1 race here in America? We were saying, would you go in Austin or Miami or Vegas? So we have that conversation.
What's the limit on your credit card?
Well, yeah, I know. It's expensive. But then she said this, you want to talk about credit card limits. She said, wouldn't it be great if we could go to Monaco and watch that? But we'd have to get some rich guy with a yacht to let us in there to watch it. But that would be like, wave a magic wand. That's a bucket list.
Well, hell, we did this podcast while you're at the Guinness Brewery in Dublin, Ireland, from up in the top bar. So we could do it from Monaco.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Let's just see if I can get to Austin or Vegas or Miami.
I heard the audio of Lewis Hamilton yelling at his pit crew. I'm trying to win the race. You guys are sitting there having tea. What are we doing? Pit strategy. It was just hilarious. This move from Mercedes to Ferrari it's been a disaster for Lewis Hamilton. He's losing his mind.
Well, every time you come in with the podcast update on Lewis Hamilton, it's always something.
Well, it's either him or Verstappen. What a soap opera.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, those are all the topics on the table. Now it's your chance to jump on board. We're going to give you a half hour to express opinions here because Fans Forum chat box is open. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they got materials, you want ideas. This can be your best friend. They'll be your consultant. Just go online to see all the things they have at dixieline.com. Fans Forum chat box is open. I don't know a hell of a lot of other people that are doing what we're doing sports talk the way it should be done and giving you the chance to jump on board. John, where do you want to go? Because you got a lot of friends stacked up here.
Okay, Matthew is good to us. Matthew gives us a little bit of money and he likes to go first. And he says, hey, huge Champions League and Soccer League with El Clasico Ben thinking about JJ Redick's comments. And I can't stand his arrogance, no humility or respect.
Well, it is big time. Obviously, Champions League soccer is just absolutely huge. As they're into the semifinals now of the, quote, Champions League, and then to the final weeks also of the English Premier League. And we got relegation and we got promotion coming too. So, yeah, big time in soccer. Redick's got strong opinions and philosophies about how I'm going to run the Lakers. And Rob Pelinka allows him to do what he wants. It's odd. The players, unless it's just rhetoric, players have been very supportive of Redick and his approach. But they made a comment the day after the closing press conference. There was a second gathering with the media in L.A., and Rob Pelinka said the one thing we're going to do in the offseason, aside from fix the roster, and they got to go get a rim protector, somebody playing the paint. I told you so. The one thing he said we got to do is we need championship. What's the word I'm looking for? Health, conditioning.
Oh.
Mandating it. We will have championship conditioning on this team, which leads me to believe that everything I said in Dallas about Luka Doncic is true.
Yeah, it's a shot across the bow right there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. In terms of diet, training,
Yeah.
conditioning, why are you smoking, etc. So
He smokes?
yes,
How in the hell can you play in the NBA and smoke?
that's what I asked too. So anyhow, that's things. But Reddick, whatever he sales pitched those players during the course of the year, I mean, they did win 50 games, and that was with a hole in the paint and a mess of injuries. So the players have supported Reddick, but Pelinka said, we are going to have championship conditioning. I guarantee you, before they get to camp, they're going to be in condition. So,
I think Reddick has turned out better than I thought. Because remember when he was being considered for the job, we're like, oh, no way. He's just a
podcaster.
He's a podcaster. Yeah. He's a pretty boy. Yeah, sure. He's an ex-player, but you never really thought him as a leader. But I've been impressed with him. Yep. So, and yeah, you ever seen the pictures of Luka when he was younger? I mean, he was so much thinner, so much lighter. And yeah, soccer, by the way, San Diego FC won again last night or Saturday night, excuse me.
Yeah,
so
blew out Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, just a stunner. Yeah. Chucky Lozano had 2 goals, 2 assists. Played really well. They jumped on them early, and Dallas didn't even look like they wanted to play there.
Yeah, it was. So I love having a local MLS team. I think it's just really great for San Diego. Okay, let's move on down the list here, and let's go here to we'll go to Mike. He goes, that NHL Game 7 Saturday and Sunday were the best. Hope all is well.
Yeah, it was really great hockey, and it's such a grind. And Game 7 are so emotional. I mean, I had a knot in the pit of my stomach for Winnipeg because I thought this is going to end really badly. And here you are with 56 wins. They saved the franchise. You saw what Portage and Main, the main streets in Winnipeg were like with they said they had in excess of 12,000 fans outside watching on the big screen, in addition to the sellout in the arena. I thought, oh, they're going to lose. And then bingo, they came back and got 2 within 2, and then went off into the second overtime, and it wasn't even a good shot on goal. It hit a stick off the side of the net and ricocheted past Bennington. Bennington had no chance to respond to the ricochet. So these Game 7s are just super. And on we go to the second round. And Edmonton is alive, but does Edmonton have any gas left? And Edmonton's got this goaltending situation. And I don't know about Winnipeg. I mean, they are really beat up. I mean, losing Morrissey on top of having lost Sheffley, that's not a complete hockey team right now. And they got to turn around. They got to come back and play tomorrow night. So that's big time challenge.
Game 7's just awesome.
Aren't
they just so great? And especially NBA and the NHL. Well, the other one was Florida, Tampa, right?
Yep.
And I remember I watched part of that. That was a good game too.
Yeah, Florida though really manhandled those guys.
But that Kings game, I mean, excuse me, the Jets game, how they scored there at the end.
Oh, the Kings. The other Game 7 was the Kings Oilers.
Okay, but that was that Saturday or that was earlier, wasn't it?
Was that Friday?
Yeah, I think it might have been Friday or something. So there was a lot going on, but it was, it's great. Must see TV.
Oh, and on we go to the second round. Game on. Next one.
Okay, let's go to Halos in the infield. Fire Ron Washington.
Does that solve the problem? I think the bigger problem is the roster and the makeup of the roster and the failure of the farm system. It's just, they just don't have enough players to compete. And they, granted, they did lose 99 games, but they were in a lot of games last year with half a roster. I think they got less than half a roster right now. Kikuchi's had 3 bad starts in a row. Kyle Hendricks, the ex-Cub, had shown up and had good starts early and then just got raked. But then he comes back and throws 7 1/3 innings, gives up 1 run, and beats Detroit on Saturday. I said, wow. So they just don't have enough players. Your team batting average is .210. What does that tell you? It was really interesting. There was a big interview with the general manager, Perry Manassian, and he just says quotes were just really, really weird about, we just have to work our way through this, bide your time. Well, you can't work your way through it because you lost 99 last year. You dragged all these 1-year rentals in. I don't see anybody playing really well here. And Christ, you're a month into the season. I think it's not Ron Washington's fault. I think it's an organizational fault.
Well, I remember the one big plus to Ron Washington is that he was a teacher.
Yeah.
And he would literally, get down there and work on ground balls with a third baseman. And, that he was doing a lot of that, when he was with the Braves, and people praised him for that. And generally speaking, the Angels have a lot of young guys. You'd think it'd be a perfect match, but yet there's so many players that are hitting like 211 or 187. Yep. So how does the great teacher get such terrible results?
Because the general manager hasn't done a good job of the draft. It's not a good situation. They got more young players coming. I mean, I think that the next pitcher coming is Caden Dana, but I expected him to be there in the rotation at the start, and he just got shelled in spring training. Now he's gone back to Salt Lake City, and he's playing better. Reed Detmers, who many projected to be a #1 starter, and had shown flashes and then got hurt, and he's in the bullpen right now, but he's had bad back outing, so you can't elevate him into the rotation and say, save us. So they just don't have enough players. So it's weird. They did draw, although there might have been a lot of transplanted, deported Michigan fans that are out here. They drew a lot of fans for the Detroit Tigers series that just concluded on the weekend, but tough times in Anaheim.
Yeah, pretty rough.
Oh,
let's keep going. This is a comment from Bill. It's a two-parter. It's a little long, but it's good because it's a follow-up on what we were talking about, Lakers and JJ Redick. And he says, first, concerned that Luka will not extend with the Lakers. His comments about perhaps playing for a no-state tax team and Redick's stupid remark implying that the team is out of shape is concerning. And then Bill goes on to say, Redick's poor coaching lost the series. Also, Luka is playing for the Serbian team this summer. I wish I was that, quote, out of shape. Sick of Luka blame game by sports media.
Well, they're going to have to drive the message home. He has every right to have a max contract. Do you want to give him a max contract? Probably the Lakers do because of the price they paid. He's got to be the cornerstone. So max contracts, $52 to $55 million. How many other teams are going to want to pay $55 million on a 5-year extension to Doncic? He's in LA. I mean, that's marketing unto itself. Where's he going to go? Play in Florida? I don't know if he were ever to leave after this coming season. But there's another year, and they're going to offer him the max to stay. But he's got to be a different player. He's got to get in better shape. He does not play a hell of a lot of defense either.
Well, I know I have different standards for Luka than I have for LeBron. And I don't know why that is. Should I? I mean, because to me, LeBron is Superman. LeBron should be dominating the world, and he's not.
But he's 40.
He's like the coach from Oklahoma State. Damn it, I'm 40. But the whole thing with Luka is, to me, he's like more of a magician. Where he makes the crazy pass or makes the interesting basket. He kind of outsmarts them. But then I'm thinking, well, I didn't really expect much in defense from him in the first place. But I don't know. Am I giving him a break? Is it, maybe it's wrong. I shouldn't be holding either one of these to different standards, really.
5-man team. You got to put five players on the floor. They don't have 5 quality players, and they got 0 bench. This is more at Pelinka's front door than it is anybody else's.
Yeah, I think so. It's a cluster F out there in LA. Okay, let's keep moving here. And Casey King says, hey, Lee, and now the Kings fired Rob Blake. And how do you see Kings bringing in the next GM? And do you think Jim Hillier will be let go as well as Kings head coach?
I don't normally call for coaches to be fired. I don't think I've really ever done that as a sports talk show host. I might critique certain people in the job they did. But Hillier's player personnel, game decisions really hurt this thing. And it all started cascade when Evander Kane scored a goal for Edmonton. They demanded a review, and it was a very complicated review as to whether Kane kicked the puck into the net. He did not. Whether he kicked the puck onto a stick and then he hit it and then it went in. The question was, did he interfere with the goaltender trying to make the save on the deflection shot? I mean, it was a very complicated review. But the problem is the Kings bench had the tablets to look at the replay before they made the decision to review it. You have to know that if you lose the review, you get a 2-minute penalty. So not only did the goal count, Edmonton got the power play and then promptly scored again. They scored 2 goals in 10 seconds. I mean, that was a tactical error that was really bad. And then he shortened. I had to explain to the rookie over here, line changes. Mm-hmm. You have 4 lines of forwards. and you rotate them through the game and everybody plays a minute, 55 seconds on their shift. Next line is in. He went back. He went to 2 lines for a chunk of the game, and he, instead of having 6 defensemen to rotate, he only rotated 4. His guys were so gassed because they got caught on ice, got caught in long shifts. They couldn't get off. They had a minute 50, had to go back on. He made so many tactical errors, Hilliard did. I thought it was catastrophic. And I mean, that's how Edmonton climbed back into this thing and then got all the momentum going forward. And the Kings were cooked. They gave up 93 shots on goal in 2 games. I've never seen that. Not in the playoffs. So just a bad set of circumstances. I've never asked anybody to be fired. I don't think Hilliard should keep the job, but I'm shocked that it hit the eject button on Rob Blake because I think he's done a good job in a very tough set of circumstances. The team he inherited had cap problems and age, and he made some changes, and he's drafted well, and he's traded for role players well. It was really disappointing, and I'm sorry. I think he was betrayed by Luc Robitaille, and that shouldn't have happened because those 2 guys are tied at the hip together.
Someone's got to be the scapegoat, right?
It didn't have to be scapegoat. Just evaluate what went wrong. I just gave you A through F what went wrong in that series.
Yeah.
It was all on the bench by the coach.
Yeah. So you think you'd have a sit-down meeting and go through that, a day or 2 after you've been eliminated. But it's interesting you brought up the whole strategy of how to use instant replay, because sometimes in games you get near the end of the game and they know that the instant replay may not give us what we want, but what the hell? We're near the end of the game. I may as well use it rather than
Except there's a 2-minute penalty in hockey. If you don't win the instant replay, Evander Kane's goal for the Oilers counts, and they get a power play. That's different than all the other sports.
Oh, it is. That's a way heavier penalty.
Yeah, a hell of a penalty.
Yeah, that is huge.
So that's what's different about the NHL from baseball.
There you go. Okay.
Rookie.
I am.
Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Surf City Bill. He goes, what if North Carolina football has a great season? Will the Babe get all the credit?
Well, they got a brand new quarterback just transferred in from Alabama, Birmingham. They've been very active in the transfer portal. It is the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's just going to be very intriguing to see how Belichick can make this whole thing come together. It's a different environment, though, because you can't have your players in the facility for 12 hours a day. In the National Football League, Belichick owns the New England Patriots, and they're there all the time for meetings and weight work and on, they have one on-field session, but there's more meetings afterwards. So it's a different set of circumstances. It'd be fascinating to see how this works out. And you think anybody wants to do an interview with him now about the book now?
They just want to interview the circus of all of this.
Yeah.
And, North Carolina is kind of a conservative, at least parts of it, pretty conservative. So this whole thing with the young girl following him around, it just would not be tolerated in the Bible Belt, would it?
No, I don't think so. But and these are the big money boosters. They don't give a crap what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, if you can win football games, man, we don't care,
Yeah, I had retired college friends in Virginia say, wait till North Carolina gets to understand who the hell they hired and how he acts and treats people. I said, this might not work out very well.
Yeah, well, the NFL is definitely a lot different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
well, I made the comment last week, and I made it on Saturday morning on KUSI. This is a guy, Belichick, who controlled the narrative in New England all the time. He can't control this. And now they want him to make personal appearances and do national interviews to sell his book. I guarantee you he can't control the questions that are going to be asked. Every question going forward is going to be about him, New England, Cleveland, Bill and the Babe.
He not only can he not control the narrative, he let it get out of control by all these stupid decisions he's making,
including the sweatshirt that he wore.
The sweatshirt, the girl, going back to college. I mean, he should have just retired and been done in the NFL, right?
Stayed in the media. I mean, what I saw last year of him interacting with different people on podcasts and special shows, it was kind of cool. He kind of loosened up. He looked really different that he was out from behind the fortress walls of the monster he created with the New England Patriots. But geez, now he reverts back to this curmudgeon, as you would say.
Well, he was even in like some TV commercial, and they were playing that old Big Boss Man song, and so I was thinking, it just makes sense for him to, go out to sunset that way.
You mentioned a TV commercial. I think you're making reference to a Dunkin' Donuts commercial during the Super Bowl.
It might have been.
She was in that commercial.
She was.
Yes. You have to go back and look at it. She was in that commercial. It just goes,
I guess that shouldn't surprise me.
this goes on and on and on. Okay, next question.
Okay, we'll go here to Fans Forum. Richard, he goes, is it a blessing that LA and San Diego won't play until June? Both teams should be healthy then. Both fan bases deserve that both rosters be at full strength.
Well, it would have been fun, though, if they'd started the season, beat LA. It just would have been great. But I don't understand the scheduling, because baseball is all about rivalries. Baseball is all about opening day and how important the start of the season is. And they historically always have the Yankees play the Red Sox at the start. Yankees play the Red Sox at the end. Why not the Padres? Why are we playing Colorado and Pittsburgh so many times at the start of the season? Padres-Dodgers is really special, or Padres-Giants. So can't control it. It's there. We're not going to see these guys till June. But like I said last week, month of May is really important for the Padres. They consider themselves first place. Hell, they're only a half game out. They consider themselves first place. They have to own May, because they play Pittsburgh, Colorado, Miami, and the Angels 14 times in a 17-game span. They have to own the month of May, because when they get to June, they play the Dodgers, the Giants, Arizona 14 times in 17 games.
Yeah. Let's get busy. But yeah, they're on a 5-game winning streak, right? They swept the Giants in 2 and the Pirates in 3. So they're going to the Yankee Stadium. So we'll see.
That's Aaron Judge.
And Aaron Judge and his gang of guys that are all like in-betweener players. But you made a comment about starting the season, and remember last year the Padres were in Korea,
right,
to start the season. But do you like it like back in the day when the Cincinnati Reds always got the first game?
Yeah, I got friends in Cincinnati that don't like the fact that they've been kind of shunted aside, even though historically the Reds played the first game ever in Major League Baseball. That became a tradition. The Reds had opening day to themselves, but TV contracts, et cetera, have changed everything.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of special.
Yep.
And then I think it got changed because I think ESPN must have gotten MLB now, the MLB package, and then they wanted to do Yankees Red Sox to start the season.
Well, everybody does.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we move on.
Okay,
thanks, Rich.
Let's go here to Osiders Talk Chargers. He goes, hey, with all these deep jump ball receivers the Chargers drafted, makes me wonder why we re-signed Mike Williams over Keenan Allen, or is there still a chance we pick him up?
No, I don't think so now. I mean, they're deep at wide receiver. They drafted 2 more wide receivers with speed, which is the one thing they really needed. They got Mike Williams at a very affordable price. I mean, this is not the Mike Williams that at one point was going to make $15 million, which is why they let him go. They're not going to pay Keenan Allen. He's not going to make $15 or $16 million any longer. Mike can still be a jump ball guy, but they went out and they've got tight end who's pretty good. This Gadsden kid has got really good credentials. Big wide body kid who can run down the seam. He played at Syracuse. They got Gadsden, and then obviously they drafted 2 kids at wide receiver, and you got McConkey. And it's really interesting. The conversation I've had with NFL people is Quentin Johnston, he might not make it out of training camp. And they've waited 3 years for stardom to arrive and hasn't really quite happened. So Johnston's going to be fighting for a job on the roster, because I have no doubt they're going to keep the 2 speed kids that they drafted.
Well, that's part of the reason they drafted him is to kick Johnston in the butt and, get your act together here.
Yeah, drop passes. I mean, he played well the first half of the season, and then he just totally disappeared. And then he dropped balls, and then he wasn't being targeted. He was hardly getting on the field at the end.
It's funny, the term jump ball receivers. I mean, I know what he means. I've never thought about that, as a category for wide receivers, because there's always the possession receiver. There's always the blazing speed deep down the field receiver, but jump ball receiver is a new category.
Yep.
Am I missing any other categories?
No, slants, hooks, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The slot receiver thing has kind of become the in thing. Who's my slot guy? That is Ladd McConkey.
Oh.
You could not cover him with a blanket last year. So now the thing is, go draft these speed guys outside,
mm-hmm.
and these guys are going to go like hell down the field, and McConkey's going to be doing what he's doing. And you can also flare and throw the running back. Marion Williams, the running back out of Carolina, that's a pretty good football player. He caught a lot of balls at UNC in addition to being a heavy-duty back. Now, he is not Ashton Genty. Genty's got an extra burst, and Genty is a dart and dash guy. This guy is truly north-south, and he's going to pound you along the way, but he doesn't have the extra gear that Genty has. But I think that the draft pick of Hampton that was a good pick.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this all plays out because I didn't know much about Hampton. And I'm going to learn a lot more.
Well, he was the second best running back in the country. And he proved that he was heavy duty. You average 5.7 yards every time you touch the ball over 2.5 years in the ACC. That's pretty good.
Hell yeah. I mean, you can imagine they got that in the NFL. Hey, let's go here to Darth Schickster. And he goes, hey, Blake can go to the Isles and fix the mess that Lou couldn't.
Oh. He's talking about Rob Blake and the Kings. I don't know if somebody will hire Rob Blake. I think Rob Blake did a good job in a tough set of circumstances. I'm just kind of disappointed because this sure sounds like it's a Robitaille decision. This is not an Anschutz decision. Philip Anschutz does not put his hands or fingerprints on anything. He's the owner about LA Kings hockey. I feel bad that Blakey got treated that way. And they still got so much cap space and the ability to go get more players. Why would you not give him another year? Even if Blake had confidence with Hillier, then give him another year together and see if they can get over this emotional hurdle. But just to put it at Blake's front door, that makes no sense to me at all, because that was a pretty damn good team.
You had praised Blake Snell, I remember early on.
Rob Blake.
Blake Snell, Rob Blake, I'm sorry.
Rookie.
Rookie, definitely. I'm a rookie on this. You had praised Rob Blake when we first got together and started this podcast. So to me, from my position, it is interesting that he was let go. But I'm curious a little bit about the other part of the equation, the Isles. I assume he's referring to the Islanders.
Yes.
So
who fired Lou Lamoriello, longtime old school general manager, who got axed because they missed the playoffs too.
So I think you told me that the Islanders actually play out on Long Island.
Yes.
Okay, which is kind of cool.
And Nassau Coliseum.
But are they like the Angels to the Dodgers, the way that the Islanders are to the Rangers?
Exactly. But it is at least Long Island. I know, having grown up there and gotten deported from there. Mm-hmm. Long Island is an entity unto itself, and that is the only team. I mean, I think Long Island's baseball team is the New York Mets. Long Island's NFL team is the New York Jets, who are based on the island. You know, some of these others are based in the city or based in New Jersey. So, but Islanders, they've had great runs. Michel Bossy, Denny Potvin, they had a great era too. But like all things, your team gets old. You got to replace them. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You make mistakes on players, contracts, etc. Lamoriello was a really good general manager for a long time, but he's 82 years of age, and I think maybe the game is kind of passed him by. I'll be intrigued to see if Blake gets him an immediate job somewhere else. I'm biased because I like Rob, and I've known Rob a long time. He's a Hall of Fame player. He played 14 years for the Kings on defense at a Bowling Green, and I just think he got a raw deal in this deal. I would have gone one more year with those guys.
Yeah, bummer, man. But you got to, getting knocked out by the Oilers 4 years in a row, they had to do something.
Well, but that's Connor David. That's Draisaitl. That's a really good team.
It is. And it just, they had to do something. Okay, let's go here. This is an interesting point from Christoph. Justin Tucker getting cut today. Oof. Thoughts?
Well, you're talking about Baltimore Ravens kicker. Mm-hmm. Salary cap. He missed 10 field goals last season. And by the way, he's been charged by 16 different women with sexual misconduct. And then they just drafted a field goal kicker who I guess went to the combine and just lit it up. I think his name is Roop. 6th round field goal kicker. I think he was like 16 for 19 or 17 for 19 at the combine. And he's got a big leg. He kicked 6 50-yard field goals last season in college. So Tucker, bad season, a lot of age, and all salary cap issue and the junk off the field with the women. That's probably what did it. If indeed he was going to get cut, there was a theory that they were bringing them both to camp, but maybe they changed their mind.
Kickers are always such a odd duck in the whole world of football. It's, to me, they're interesting guys. And I remember Tucker had that streak going. He was
the best kicker in modern day football, and then he had a really rocky road last year.
Yeah, but he was like money, for that stretch. But it's interesting, like you think about him and the mess he got in off the field. But then I think about the kicker for the Chiefs which is this Harrison Barker or
Buckner.
Buckner. Yeah, and he's the one that's kind of got involved in all the politics stuff, and that's gotten some people all tweaked out.
There's a difference, though, of sexual misconduct with women versus saying something stupid in politics. Big difference.
Well, big difference. But then think of the other personalities. Remember who was the kid that was for the Raiders for so long? That
Sebastian Janikowski.
He put like date rape drug into someone's drink. He got involved in something like that.
I don't think he ever got suspended, though. But that's Raiders, that era, those type of people.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, kickers are just an odd bird in the NFL, and so it's just fun to talk about them.
Okay, yeah, Justin Tucker's had a great career. Just, if it's age and he can no longer kick, I understand that, but the stuff that he got involved with, I'll tell you, if there's 16 women out there that have filed sexual misconduct charges against him, there's probably more. Just ask Deshaun Watson.
Well, that's what Neil just said. He goes, "Will Tucker get picked up like Watson?" So, okay, let's move on. They got to go to social media here. I'll get a few of these folks involved.
We didn't get any Belichick comments.
Well,
and the babe.
Didn't we? I thought we did already. Didn't we? No? Okay. Then, here's one right here. I'm getting these mixed up. And this is from Sal. He goes, in North Carolina's defense, no one could have seen this coming.
Well, except that people knew that he was dating a 24-year-old. They also knew what his modus operandi was in terms of operating the football program. I mean, we're not talking about a specific guy that fits the characteristics of the modern day coach, and he didn't want to recruit in Holmes. Recruit wants to be here, have him come to Chapel Hill, I'll talk to him. So they knew what they were getting into, but the boosters didn't care. They were the ones that were writing the check, and this is Bill Belichick and his 6 Super Bowl rings. I thought it was novel. I didn't think it was novel. I thought it was really off the charts that Belichick would ever do this. But the reality was nobody wanted to touch him because the word really got out in the league that he was such a hard rock to deal with. And evidently, when Bob Kraft talked to Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and said, there's all kinds of problems if you're bringing him on board, because Bill did have the interview. Next thing you know, Bill's not in the mix in Atlanta, and then it spread like wildfire. He never got a call from Jerry Jones, and Raiders didn't touch him. And so did he get blackballed, or is it just a byproduct of who he is and how he ran that program, and the word finally got out, I guess?
Well, I remember people were saying that his record in New England was under 500 without Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah. And his record before that in Cleveland was disastrous.
Yeah. And yet everyone praised him as like, the guru on the top of the hill.
Guru defensively, and guru in terms of being focused. And this is what we're doing in terms of running our football operation. And everybody on the outside of the fortress is the enemy, including the media. And so he won, and then the quarterback retired, or actually the quarterback left in free agency, and that party wasn't very good. His player personnel people kept getting picked up by other organizations. Dan Cesario is a guy that left. Was a player personnel guy, went to Houston's, kind of built the Houston Texans into a pretty good team. So Bill had a brain drain there, and coaches retired, and just his player personnel acquisitions the last couple of years weren't very good. He didn't believe in free agency, didn't believe in rewarding guys with mega contracts. So you're getting a lower level of street free agents. His way of business changed, maybe the league changed, and he couldn't change with it. But he's going to coach North Carolina. Oh, it's going to be interesting to talk about this all year.
Give me your similarities and differences between Belichick and Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll's vibrant.
But they're about the same age, aren't they?
Yeah. Pete Carroll, 73 also.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Carroll is vibrant, diverse, spontaneous, creative. Belichick is sullen. Belichick is methodical. I dealt with both. I love Pete Carroll. I just had so much fun being around Pete Carroll, and I was doing USC, and he obviously was coaching USC, and then he knew me from the NFL. So great guy. I mean, I could work and be around Pete Carroll every day of the week. The New England Patriot beat guys from the different media publications just said it was just miserable to be around him because it was miserable towards the media all the time. And they're just trying to do their job. So that's where we are. I don't know, is the phrase "what goes around comes around"? Does that fit this case?
Yeah, kind of, but he's getting some action on the side that it just kind of all works out for him, right? It makes the rough going good. Okay, let's go talk about the little Lakers here. And this is with and And he says, he's commenting on you, Hacksaw. Quote, "One in the last 9 years since LeBron came?" He goes, "Hey, we have won in 7 seasons with LeBron. We missed the playoffs 6 straight times before LeBron came to the Lakers. This is effing crazy to me. And to top it off, people think the Lakers are going to be better without him. Luka can't play defense. Austin Reeves is not your number 2. He's a third option. And who, and I mean who, without being delusional, can make the Lakers play better?"
Yeah, I'll give you my pen. We'll sign that memo. I disagree with the co-host here. He's just bagging on LeBron. Like, I think LeBron's a warrior. And Luka is a great offensive talent. There are some negatives that are swirling around Luka that they're going to have to address. This conditioning thing, eating what he wants, drinking what he wants, and smoking, that's got to change. Otherwise, he'll be out of the NBA in 3 years maybe, because this all catches up to you. But there's no doubt that Luka is a phenomenal offensive player. So we'll see. But where are they going to go get players? They've been trying to fix this thing since Pelinka came here, and they haven't fixed this thing. They've moved the parts around. They've drafted. This guy didn't work out. They drafted all these guards. Are any of them still on the roster? No, they're playing somewhere else now. And Dalton Connect, three-point shooter, where was he? Now there's rumors out there he and the number 1 pick in 2031 are the only trade parts that they might be willing to get rid of to try to get something different. They got a lot of player personnel problems.
Well, okay, let's think of this from a team architecture perspective. How are the Lakers today with their big 3 different than the Showtime Lakers of Pat Riley and Magic and Kareem? Now, I'm not saying we need to debate individual players, Magic versus LeBron, but was there something in the chemistry of what Pat Riley had in the 80s that's different in the chemistry now?
Pat was just a monster as a coach. He was so demanding, but he had great talent, and we know Showtime, which was Magic and the bigs, but Showtime was also Michael Cooper.
Yeah.
And Showtime, that was defense. Showtime was worthy.
Yeah.
And, prior to that era, Showtime was West and Baylor and Wilt, and to a degree, the young Jabbar. That was much, much deeper roster. This roster's got 2.5 players, and that's about it. And you hope Rui Hachimura has a good night shooting threes. And to quote the host, who the hell's going to defend the paint? I said that the day the trade was made. So, unless you believe Maxi Kleber is really going to be the guy. Jeez.
I don't know. And by the way, Luka is like the poster child for the quality of food in America versus Europe, isn't he?
McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. That's just nuts to me. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's talk about San Diego State Aztec football. This is from William, and he says, Sean Lewis was a bad hire. He's setting the program in less than 2 years, or he's setting back the program in less than 2 years, and his recruiting is horrid.
Well, they've really had to run uphill here because they don't have the resources that somebody else has got that's just stealing players. It's no different, though, here than at Fresno, than at Wyoming, at Colorado State. You're just coaching them up. So somebody from the Big 12 or the SEC or the ACC is going to sign them once they go into the transfer portal. It's just not a good situation. Awful lot of turnover the year he came in. I was, item one, I was very disappointed at all the players that bailed on Sean Lewis before they ever got on the practice field. I knew who he was. I looked at all the videos of when he was at Kent State. What he ran was unbelievable. And they're the 2 greatest years that Kent State has had, dating all the way back to the legendary Don James, Jack Lambert era, which is a long time ago. But at the end of the day, he couldn't hold on to his players, and then they made mistakes on players, and players bailed, and here comes the NIL, and everybody's buying guys. So I'm going to give him another year and just see if they can turn the corner here. But I don't like the turnover. It's like a turnstile. It's like Grand Central Station in the Aztec Athletic Center. I mean, they've had so many players come and go. It's like they go back to square one, have to start in spring football all again, and they got 3 new quarterbacks this year after having 3 new quarterbacks last year. So it's really tough. And I'm sorry. I am so peeved at San Diego State alum Aztec for Life that doesn't support football. And I don't know where the hell the Charger NFL fans are, because they vacated. I thought that San Diego State had the chance to grab Charger fans and make them Aztec fans, because that run they had with Rocky Long and then Brady Hoke was really good football. They put a lot of guys in the NFL. They won a lot of games. won Mountain West titles, won a bunch of bowl games. The Aztecs have had no players drafted for 3 years in a row. That says something about the drop-off. And they drew 10,000 fans a game for the last couple of home games in the shiny new stadium. And their season tickets have gone from 15,900 to 5,900 in 2 years. This is a bad set of circumstances.
So I don't think you can. I mean, Sean Lewis he's not perfect. There's no coach is perfect, but this whole thing isn't on just Sean Lewis. I mean, the whole football world's been blown upside down.
Yeah, the Mountain West Conference, Mid-American Conference, Conference USA, they're all in the same boat.
Right.
Recruit them, coach them up, somebody's going to steal them.
Exactly. And so I mean, they gave Steve Fisher, quite a bit of a leash before, the Aztecs even, they made it to the tournament, I think a few years in on Fisher, but they didn't really become a thing until about 10 years when Kawhi came to town. You got to give this guy time to build it out and just got to be patient. I mean, that's the one thing that we've learned also with Brian Dutcher. Just be patient. You got a good leader, stick with him. And Sean Lewis doesn't strike me. I'm on the outside here. He doesn't strike me as a bad leader. He seems like he's a good leader of men. He's got the right moral code. He's wanting to do the right thing, but he's just in a really tough spot.
Yeah. We'll see. Are you excited? Opening game of the season, Stony Brook.
That's like I didn't even know they were a Division I program.
They weren't until recently.
Yeah, sounds like a Division II or III school.
That's their home opener. It's tough enough trying to sell community Mountain West Conference teams. You open to a Stony Brook,
and that's probably one of those games where they're paying money to Stony Brook,
15 cents or whatever. It just
because they got to come cross country.
It doesn't excite anybody.
Did you live near Stony Brook? That's like Long Island, right?
That's on Long Island. Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a tough hill to run up. I'm going to give him another year, and we'll just see where it goes. I hope they didn't make a mistake. Based on everything I saw, it didn't seem they made a mistake.
No.
What he did at Colorado for half a season with that offense, and then obviously what he did at Kent State the last 2 years at Kent State, they were unbelievable.
Then think about that. He had a lineman 2 years ago that went in the first round of the NFL draft. Right? That Josh Simmons kid.
No, he wasn't here. That was under Brady Hoke.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
Yeah. But he coached Shador and he coached Travis Hunter at Colorado.
But then Coach Prime demoted him, didn't he?
Yes, yanked him out at midseason.
Coach Prime.
Okay, I'm not willing to give up on him yet, but Mr. Lewis, we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. Let's go here. I made the mistake about Rob Blake and Blake Snell. Let's talk Blake Snell with James. And he goes, Snell is by far the biggest fraud and crybaby in Major League Baseball history.
No, my co-host thinks a lot of Blake Snell. I just asked the question. He has had all these first half of the season failures. Has anybody ever investigated what his offseason training regimen is? I mean, they're on the hook for $182 million to Blake Snell, and now he's got a shoulder problem, and he's another bad first half, like a bad first half in San Francisco. And prior to that, all those bad first halves with the Padres, and before that, bad first halves in Tampa. Is anybody investigating what his regimen is off-season and training? Why are you accepting that regimen knowing this track record? So it's tough. He's not throwing, still not throwing. He had the plasma injection in the shoulder. That kind of smacks to me that's an impingement, and that takes a long time to come back from. So, he's quirky. I enjoyed being around him and talking to him. He's different. That's okay. He was obviously second half of the season. He just freaking owned it. And he's owned it a lot of second halves of every season. But what about the first half? He's getting paid all this money for half a season. Jeez. Dad.
Yeah, I mean, a fraud and a crybaby, that's harsh. I mean, that really is. First of all, not a crybaby. You never see him whining and complaining. I never have seen that. Now, is he a fraud? Because he's a guy, like I said, LeBron was like an A-. He should be ruling the world. Blake Snell should be dominating Major League pitching, but he's never quite there.
Not for a full year.
No, but he has 2 Cy Youngs, and it's in there. But then makes you wonder, it's like when Tampa traded him to the Padres, they knew that he was going to do 100 pitches and he'd barely make it 5 innings. They kind of knew that, and so why hasn't Blake fixed that? Because I think the only game he's pitched into the 9th inning is when he's gotten a no-hitter.
Yeah. I concur with you, and that's got to come from him. My training regimen's not correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But I like him as a person.
That's a question I pose. We'll see. We'll see how long he's out, but he's not ready to throw the ball for the Dodgers. That's for certain.
Okay, let's talk here a little Browns football. And this is from Versa. He says, hey, they can probably flip one of the quarterbacks for multiple picks next year. Good move by the Browns.
Yeah, but I know Flacco has no trade value. Flacco's a street free agent. Kenny Pickett did not do well in Pittsburgh nor Philadelphia. I don't think he's got very much market value. Nobody's going to touch the toxic waste dump that is Deshaun Watson. So who are you going to trade? Dylan Gabriel? He's a little bit, to me, he's a little bit undersized. I think Dylan Gabriel will be great in Canada. Shedeur? Shedeur's telling everybody in Cleveland, do not treat me like a fifth-round pick. I deserve to be the starter. I'm going to compete for the number one job. We'll just see. But we had last week on the podcast, I canvassed a number of different NFL scouts, and they live in the video room, and they said that, yeah, he put up great stats, and they ran a junk offense at Colorado, and the wide receivers were the ones that made Shedeur the star, not the other way around. So, and a whole bunch of the CU wide receivers got drafted too. So it'll be interesting. He's going to have the opportunity. Let's just see what he does. I don't have any axe to grind with Shedeur Sanders. I don't like the entitlement. I don't like the way he acts. John got all upset when I said, John, just make sure you tell Shedeur, send back the Rolexes.
Yeah.
What was his statement? Tom, did you hear about the story about Tom Brady? Tom Brady was on a podcast, and somebody asked him, did you recommend the Raiders draft him? And Tom looked and said, my reflection is, Shedeur, stop buying Rolls Royces, get your ass in the film room.
He said that?
Yeah.
Well, Brady talks about how he lived and breathed film.
Yeah.
That was such a big thing for him. So yeah, it's good advice, but that just goes to show you that, even the Raiders, because we thought Tom Brady, Shedeur had a relationship, and there was maybe he would go to Vegas.
Yeah. He obviously didn't carry the day in whatever their draft meetings were. And I know Brady, I know for a fact that Brady had input in a lot of those early choices.
That's the best thing that's happened to the Raiders in a long time.
Didn't draft that shiny.
Yes, is to get someone like that in there. Okay, let's move on here, and we'll go. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders. There's another Shedeur comment here, and this is from JG, and he says, "Hey, I saw some stats that showed his performance against ranked teams at Colorado was like 1-8 overall. Record at Colorado something like 12-11. I think you're kind of alluding to the same thing. I think the media coverage of this was ridiculous. No one should be guaranteed the first-round pick, especially thinking you were too good to interview."
Well, he was very condescending, and he turned off a whole bunch of people. I had an NFL executive email me anonymously, and he said point blank, coaches couldn't believe what Shedeur was doing at the combine in these private meetings. And there was one coach that pulled out, and again, the video guys, they'll montage everything. They'll montage all your big runs and your scrambles. They'll montage when you roll right, what's the end result? They'll montage a series of plays when you roll left. They montaged a series of turnovers. And coach pulled these up on the laptop and said, tell me what you saw when you threw this interception or so they ran through the whole thing. And Shedeur did not blame himself at all. It was on the wide receiver. It was a tight end broke off the pattern.
Yeah,
this guy didn't fight. And the coaches came back and said they were appalled that it was never his fault.
Well, his dad's Coach Prime. It's never going to be his fault. But didn't he set a record for like percentage completion?
Yeah, almost 70%. But as one scout said, it was a junk offense. We talked about this last week, John. One NFL scout wrote me that if you took out the bubble screens and the flare passes, which is the short little dump and runs, if you took them out and all you graded him on was the 10-yard outs, slants, crossing patterns, post patterns, deep passes, if you just graded him on those, which all NFL quarterbacks have to throw, his completion percentage was 39%. What's that tell you?
And he had good receivers.
Yeah.
So, because I've heard people say that, his passing, he's really accurate. But maybe they're just looking at the percentage of the completion percentage
Bubble screens.
of the bubble screens. Yeah, I mean, we can throw 70% on the bubble screens.
Well, maybe I can. I don't know about you, but
Okay.
that's where we are. Hey, give him a chance. Let's give him some space.
Yeah,
Let's just see. He's going to get. It'll be fun to see how many snaps he gets in actual live fire preseason games, because there'll be a lot of media attention. There'll be a lot of pressure on Stefanski. You got to give him snaps. But Stefanski's trying to get ready for the start of the season. And John and I kind of talked off the air about, how do you give him enough snaps to get him up to speed to play in preseason games? Because Pickett and Flacco are going to be the starters, we assume. And if you're screwing around with Shedeur and then Dylan Gabriel, and you're giving him a chunk, and how do you develop your wide receivers if they're having to catch passes from these guys rather than Flacco and the other quarterbacks? I think it's a real tough call for Stefanski to try to do it with 4 guys.
Well, I mean, I can't even imagine any NFL team having 5 quarterbacks at camp. I mean, you might have some guys, and aren't going to make it at all. They're just an extra arm to throw to receivers. Yep. But still, 5 is a lot. I mean, because the team will carry, 2, 3, 2 or 3
plus 1.
2 plus 1. And then they might have another journeyman that's invited to camp. But it's not like they're going to have 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah. And you only have so many snaps in practice. How are you going to divvy up the snaps?
They're going to have parallel practices on 2 fields.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting. But I think those of us who cover the NFL follow it. I love watching the preseason and just watching players and how they produce. That's going to be fun to see how many snaps Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel actually get.
They're going to have to earn it.
Yeah.
Okay,
we move on. A couple more here before we put a lid on this.
Okay, let's go here, talk Lakers. With IE Steve, and he says, so in 2013, when Jeannie Buss held brother Jim accountable
and fired him,
now who's holding Jeannie accountable?
Nobody. None at all. And again, Jeannie's non-basketball. Jeannie's the daughter of the owner. Inherited it when Jerry passed. At the end of the day, this comes down to player personnel decisions. This comes down to any one of the general managers they've had in that office. And this comes down to, where they are going forward with coaches. I mean, they've fired 3 coaches. Pelinka's now got JJ, and JJ's going to be the guy. But how is he going to get more players in there when he's got virtually no cap space and not a lot of assets to use as trades? Now, if they can go get a role player, if they can get Clint Capella from Atlanta, who's a shot blocker and a rim guy, and that's all he does. He's a neophyte on offense. If they can do that, then maybe that helps them. But if I'm Jackson Brown, hell, I'm not coming back to the Lakers. The guy embarrassed me and sat me out a whole game while they're getting their doors blown off in the final game of the playoffs. So they're going to have to find role players they can afford and get to come here who want to be part of something that might be good. Can they find the right guys? Can they find young guys they can develop? Maybe they can find a few bigs, but I just don't know. It's hard. There's no star coming in through the door because they don't have cap space to do that.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about Jeannie Buss, and first I'm starting to wonder, what was the Buss family history of how they acquired the Lakers? But I remember seeing bits and pieces of that when you talk about Magic's early years, because I think he was kind of hanging out with Jerry Buss because they were buds, but Jerry Buss was a young man then. So how did the Buss family get involved with the Lakers?
I think Jerry somehow got involved maybe after they moved from Minnesota. I think Jerry was into real estate, very successful businessman. And I think that's one of the things that was going on as he got in there. Of course, there was no salary cap at that point, and it was LA, and they had such a history. I mean, the Lakers had Mikan and a great history early on. And then here came West and here came Baylor, and there weren't that many teams, and they had great people making the assessments on player personnel, and success begat success without a salary cap. And Jerry was not afraid to write the check and pay. He paid all those players very, very well. And they just kept hitting. And then they started making trades. A lot of people don't know this. They got Magic Johnson because of the stupidity of the owner in Cleveland. I was in Cleveland when that was happening. Ted Stepien and Bill Musselman, Eric's father, they were the decision makers with the Cavs. They traded a number 1 pick for a forward. I think his name was Donnie Ford, and a couple of other people.
Oh, no.
And the number 1 pick became Magic. But that was the ownership in Cleveland. Cleveland was trading all their number 1s. And that's why the rule got put into effect. It's called the Ted Stepien rule. The league barred teams from trading consecutive number 1 picks because Stepien and Musselman did this and wrecked the Cleveland franchise. And therefore, that's where the number 1 draft pick rule has come into place.
I didn't know that.
It's called the Stepien rule. You hang with me, you might learn
I never heard
something.
of the Stepien rule. That's interesting to me. But didn't, like, Larry Bird going to the Celtics, there was some kind of another weird history with that too, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I'm trying to recall what that was. I think Boston had made a trade, and the number 1 pick was a year down road, and nobody at that point knew that Larry Bird coming out of Indiana State was going to be Larry Bird, a Hall of Famer. But that's how that happened. If that was a trade for somebody's number 1 pick a year or 2 years down road.
But then there was also circumstances, I think, how they got McHale. And I know Robert Parrish was traded by the Warriors, and the Warriors got the number 1 pick like a year or 2 later, and they got Joe Barry Carroll. It was just awful. So, it's sometimes these great players just sort of land in the lap of these teams.
Or it's great planning.
Okay.
With stupidity at the other end of the phone.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Hey, listen, we have had a great day. I hope you've enjoyed this. We've gone a lot of different directions. We do sports talk the way we think it should be done. We put hot topics on the table. Then we invite you to jump on board into Fans Forum. You can really help us a lot. Give us a thumbs up on all the different platforms. It helps us grow this podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. It's hugely important. Tell your friends we're here Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30, and you always have the opportunity. You might not agree with me. I know there's a lot of people don't agree with the guy in left field, but listen, we talk about the big stories, and then we let you join us in Fans Forum. It's so cool that we can do this interaction. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Go to Dixieline.com to see what they have to offer to you. John, take a deep breath. We'll be back here Thursday. Yeah, there'll probably even be more Bill Belichick stories to talk about.
That's the best part of this. I have one final question. So you're wearing the Scandinavian Explorer sweatshirt.
Yes.
It's got the flags of the 4 nations. Have you been to all 4 of those?
Yes.
Which is your favorite?
I love them all. I love Norway. I went to the fjords in Norway, way up in the northern part of Norway. Just absolutely amazing. Love Finland. Loved Helsinki. Was only there for a short period of time. Was in and out of Sweden pretty quickly, but Scandinavia is really different. But I love traveling Northern Europe. It's a very different world. It's weird. It was 1 year the NFL draft was held, and I'm trying to think if I was in Stockholm, but I couldn't get coverage except through my laptop and computer. There was no TV. Was all about soccer, and TV was all about hockey, and TV was all about not curling. What's the game like lacrosse?
Hurling. That's Irish, I think.
Irish.
Yeah.
So that was really weird to actually be abroad in Europe on NFL draft day. It was really strange.
Have you seen the show Vikings on the History Channel?
No.
That's awesome, and that's where you got these. They're in the fjords, of Norway, and then you learn about them going to England and all the history. It's a really good show. You'd like it.
Yeah. So I went to a bunch of museums. I went to Oslo, which is where the help me here, the great museum.
Oh, was that the Nobel Peace Prize?
Nobel Peace Prize Museum is there. I walked through those hallways. That was just staggering to experience that. So I've done 6 international trips, all before COVID hit. I've not gotten back, but I just love travel. It's pretty cool.
We should do a podcast of Hacksaw's vacation pictures. I think the fans would like that.
No, I don't think they have any interest in that. Hey, listen, thanks for being with us. We'll see you come Thursday at 1:30. Thanks as always for being part of this award-winning, very popular podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.
Sniffer needs to go out.